Of this continuation from May 20, June 24, and July 19, 2026 of case number 2026-06, wherein Preservation of Affordable Housing, Housing Assistance Corporation, and Habitat for Humanity Cape Cod have applied for a comprehensive permit as set forth in Mass General Laws, Chapter 40B. The applicants are seeking approval to construct and operate 78 units of affordable and moderate income rental and home ownership housing in multiple phases. The property is located at 66 and 76 Route 6A, Orleans, in the Village Center zoning district. Joining with me tonight are board members Isabella Santagruel, Austin Higgins, Martin Zaber, David Little, and Robert Wilkinson. Also with us is attorney Kate Connolly from the law firm of Murphy, Hesse, Toomey, and Lehane, which serves as counsel for the town of Orleans. Attorney Connolly is with us to advise the board on any legal issues that may arise this evening. Before we begin, I want to explain briefly what the subject of this hearing is and what this board can and cannot consider, and in the order of our proceedings tonight. Chapter 40B is a state law enacted in 1969 that governs proposals for housing affordable to low and moderate income households. Under that law, this board conducts a single consolidated review in place of the separate reviews that our local boards would ordinarily conduct. And this board has the authority to waive local requirements, including zoning, that would otherwise apply. The law was written to ensure affordable housing will be built in every Massachusetts community by limiting the ways local rules can block it. That means state law limits what this board can and cannot consider. This is the Zoning Board of Appeals, not the Affordable Housing Board, nor the Select Board. This board may consider public health and safety, traffic and site access, building and site design, environmental matters such as drainage and stormwater, open space, and similar planning concerns. And any conditions we impose must be supported by documented evidence in the record. I want to be direct about two subjects because I know they are on many people's minds. First, the number of units. State law does not permit this board to reduce the size of the project simply because the board or residents believe it is too large. A reduction must be justified by a specific documented health, safety, environmental, design, or planning problem arising from this project on this site and capable of being upheld by the evidence on appeal. Second, who will live in the housing? Tenant selection, marketing, income eligibility, and the mix of residents are controlled by the state subsidizing agency, by fair housing law, and decisions made by the Select Board in drafting the requests for proposals. Issues of the need for and type of affordable housing units are not within this board's jurisdiction. They are specifically excluded from our consideration by the statute. I, as chair, have been negligent in prior meetings to allow public comment on those issues. My negligence ends tonight. Any comments on those issues will not be entertained this evening. You should direct those comments to the Select Board and not this hearing. Tonight we will begin by opening the floor to public comment on the relevant issues I have just outlined. Before we begin, let me acknowledge that the board has received a citizen's petition organized by Stephanie Gaskill and Elaine Baird with 120 signatures, calling for a third-party peer review of the applicant's traffic study. Speaking for myself, I would characterize that petition as extremely well done, clear, germane, comprehensive, and compelling. Because I do not think additional testimony on traffic concerns is necessary, I ask that anyone intending to comment on traffic hold those remarks until everyone wishing to discuss other issues has been heard. At that point, I would like to begin the discussion of the traffic issue by asking the applicants to respond to the citizen's petition. After the applicants respond, I will poll the board on whether any additional testimony is necessary before voting on the citizens' petition. After the traffic issue concludes, the applicants will have the opportunity to respond to any unanswered public comments. My hope is that the board will then have time tonight to begin reviewing the individual waivers requested by the applicants. Are there any questions or objections from the board to my proposed order of proceeding tonight? No. Thank you. All relevant correspondence received will be read and entered into the record. Written comments are as welcome and carry the same weight as spoken testimony. If email is the preferred method, the address is zba@orleansma.gov. To begin public comment, I would like to read into the record 3 brief emails that the board has received to date. From a Miss Helga Williams. Miss Williams has a sense of humor. Overpopulation, air pollution, noise pollution, water shortage, sewer problems, traffic congestion, traffic jams. Do not Californicate. Orleans and the Cape, please. A permanent year-round resident since 1994. From Roberta Lang. I am vehemently opposed to the proposed building project on the old Governor Prince property. It does not belong in this town. It's overwhelming in size and takes away the charm and beauty of this old Cape Cod town. It is also a nightmare involving water, sewage, fire, police, roads, and let's not forget more taxes. Build a park there, not a horrendous mass of apartments. Just take a look at that project where the underground was located. You call that quaint Cape Cod? ? Please do not let this abomination go through. A resident taxpayer who loves this place, don't ruin it more. The last is a letter from Gertrude Nichols, from Nichols Road. Very nice. I am writing for a second time respectfully. I don't have Ms. Nichols' first letter. Expressing my opposition regarding the proposed 78-unit development of the Governor Prince property. My concern is that the town of Orleans might not have the infrastructure and natural resources necessary to support a development of this magnitude. My primary concern is water resources. The town currently has water restriction on our properties, and this development, in combination with other developments that have recently passed, will cause a negative impact on our water resources. As a full-time resident of this wonderful town, I am concerned about the results of a project of this huge size. I also have an email from Ms. Gaskell informing me that the petition was on its way, and acknowledge that, and I've acknowledged the petition. Having said that, I would like to open the meeting. Let me see here. I have a better way of phrasing it. We'll begin taking testimony from anybody in the room and then turn to anyone participating virtually. Anyone wishing to comment, please come forward to stand at the podium and identify yourself with name and address. We're now open for any public comment. Anyone want to step forward, please? Please.
I am going to speak to the traffic study. Good evening, Mr. Mulligan and members of the Zoning Board of Appeals. I'm Elaine Baird of Mayflower Circle, and as I go through this, I think you'll understand why it's important that I speak to the traffic issues. Last week, several of us spent a day gathering 120 signatures in support of a Zoning Board of Appeals commissioned independent third-party traffic engineering review of the Governor Prince project. The applicant of this project has claimed a traffic spike from 78 units is insignificant due to the already high base volume at this intersection. However, the Cape Cod Commission reviewed engineering traffic assessments indicate a 44% spike in summer traffic at Route 6A and Route 28. This same report identifies this intersection as still having a significant crash count, still placing it amongst the top crash locations in Barnstable County, which you can see reference the Cape Cod Commission 2025 data report. In my 33 years of working in and owning a business abutting the Governor Prince at Route 6A and 28, we not only witnessed and depended on that massive traffic spike, we also witnessed the massive surge in traffic around specific events, as in attendance at the church of another abutter, St. Joan of Arc. People went to Mass Saturday evenings. They went to weddings. They went to funerals at the same time as my business was having openings. It was a mess. This is when we witnessed the most accidents and why the Rotary ultimately was designed the way it was. We signers of this petition urge the ZBA to require an independent study of the traffic impact of the proposed housing, not relying on the developer's insignificant could be on a sunny day at 7 a.m., but very significant at a 4 p.m. rush going to Saturday Mass. For your information, 100 of the 20 signers of the petition that we presented include abutters, many of whom see this as the only way to make their dissatisfaction with the overall project heard. And I say that Stephanie and I and others in the room went out and talked to people. I think a number of them are here in the room. I'm trying to specifically talk about the traffic issues that I still think need to be addressed by pouring that many new cars into that mix there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Maybe, is this on the traffic issue?
Yes,
Are you Ms. Gaskell?
yes,
Please.
okay, thank you. Thank you, Stephanie Gaskill, Poshet Road. I just wanted to follow up on what Elaine had said. Okay, and tell you, to clarify the exact legal and operational framework that would allow you, as the ZBA, to protect our town without costing the taxpayers money or without delaying this project. First of all, I handed out to all of you the Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53G, and the 40B Regulation 760 CMR 56.05. And in those documents, it explains, and these are state laws, that your board has the authority to hire its own independent peer review traffic engineer. The law explicitly dictates that you would be able to do this, that the taxpayers' money does not have to be used, that this is something that is done by the developers. Secondly, our research into recent comparable 43B developments across the Commonwealth shows that one of these traffic studies of a peer review of their traffic study routinely costs under $20,000. Furthermore, these independent audits take only 4 to 8 weeks to complete. This would fit comfortably into your 180-day ZBA review window. Finally, to make this immediate and actionable tonight, we've identified 3 premier engineering firms that specialize exactly in Cape Cod 40B regional corridor reviews. They are, and I don't know if I pronounced this one correctly, NITSCH, N-I-T-S-C-H Engineering. They are a state leader in Section 43G independent audits. Howard Stein Hudson, who actively consults for our neighboring towns and islands, and VHB, who is currently performing the exact same 40B review right next door in Harwich, and VHB is used by the town of Orleans on a great number of traffic issues. So the 120 plus residents and neighbors who signed this petition are asking you to use the tools that the Commonwealth of Massachusetts gave you. Please exercise your authority tonight. Protect the public safety of Route 6A. Commission an independent peer review. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gaskell. I know a lot of you have probably come to speak on the traffic issue. I tried to, are you all lined up for traffic?
No.
No, all right. Why don't you take a seat for a minute, please? I think we're going to change the order of events tonight. I know a lot of you have come, and everybody have prepared in their minds what they want to say, and they want the chance to get that microphone. We have a little different agenda. We're trying to get, we've already spent 7 hours at these hearings, and we're trying to get through some of this stuff. I guess I wasn't clear in my opening remarks, but I think you may have won your argument on the traffic. That's speaking for one. And I guess I would like to stop here and see if we can take the traffic out of order, have a discussion of it, allow the applicants to respond, and if we think we need more testimony, we can take more testimony. But if the board is in agreement to try to resolve this issue and move on to the other many issues involving this property. I don't know what word is more compelling than compelling, but your petition was very compelling and very well done, as was your testimony tonight. I will say, as one person, you haven't hit it, but I was a little surprised that the increase from summer to winter was a 44% increase. I don't know, a town that has 6,000 year-round residents and something like 3 times that in the summer, 44% seems like a short number. That was my own reaction. But at this point, I'd like to hold off on public comment on traffic, allow the petitioners to respond, if you would.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Peter Freeman, representing the applicants. And although you probably remember who they are, but we have our team here. We have Dave Quinn from Housing Assistance Corp., Charlie Dirac from Preservation of Affordable Housing, and Noreen Brown from Habitat for Humanity. And next to me is Daria McGrail, our engineer, and our traffic engineer is remote, Nathan Brackett, and Paul.
Can you all hear Mr.
And
Freeman?
Okay. Paul Adaman, I thought I was practically close to this, and Paul Adaman, our architect, is also remote. So, in a way, I'm of two minds. I mean, I always respect when neighbors are concerned. Traffic is a natural thing to be concerned about, and there is going to be an increase. So, I would say, on the one hand, we know that our professional use the right standards, but I understand that you may not have the experience that I've had in dealing with these things and seeing lots of peer review, so I sincerely do understand the questions. I was going to go through the bullet points in the petition, and again, as you said, it's well-written, it's logical. I don't believe that any independent review will find insufficiencies. One of the first things that's mentioned is the flawed comparative analysis and the use of the word insignificant. That's just a typical conclusion as to how much impact there is from the traffic on the existing network. So, again, we think that we were very thorough. I would add this, which I think is a large justification for not needing a peer review study. And as a couple of the speakers said, I acknowledge absolutely a zoning board and you folks have the right to hire peer review. I absolutely acknowledge that, so that's not an issue. But now we have the Cape Cod Commission letter, which also covers transportation, traffic, and they reviewed the report, and they said that they essentially, these are not the verbatim words, I'm not trying to spin the words at all, but without reading the entire paragraph that they wrote, they said that, they've reviewed it, it's the professional standards, and they generally agree with the conclusions. The one thing they said actually had nothing to do with traffic increases, it was about parking. So I think you should take a decent amount of comfort in the Cape Cod Commission's review on that issue. Also, I believe, and Elizabeth Jenkins can verify, I believe that your own DPW director also reviewed the traffic study and, has not raised any objections or concerns. So, as I said, on the one hand and on the other hand, that's the one hand. On the other hand, I really do, and our team does respect your desire to leave no stone unturned and to be objective and listen to neighbors. I will remind you of the obvious that zoning hearings are not a plebiscite. Doesn't really matter how many people are for or against a project. That's not the way it operates, but you understand that. That was a good statement read by the chairman at the beginning as to how the process works and what your scope is. So I would ask you to consider that it's not needed, but I would say this, we're not going to block you and get upset about your wanting to go forward with a peer review, because we do want you to feel as though you're comfortable with the decision that you're going to have to make. If you do decide to use peer review, to hire peer review, two things. One is logistical, but the first thing is I do think that it's possible to limit the scope, that it doesn't have to be a complete review of every single aspect of the traffic study. There are things in the 4 bullet points in the petition that could be basically the guidelines as to what the scope would be. And, you know, if you felt it's better to do full scope, you know, it's more time that we're concerned about as well as the cost. But we think that the review could be basically limited to, I think, 2 or 3 of the things that were mentioned. I mean, the site access and sight line safety, your engineers, the DPW, your planners have reviewed it in the site plan review. Don't forget that there's been site plan review. So at least a couple of the bullets have really been looked at by your own professionals. So I'll rest there. And again, we sincerely don't think it's necessary, but we're not going to try to block you from doing something if you really feel it's necessary.
David?
I had no doubt that you would say you didn't feel it was necessary, but this zoning board is out on an island right now. You're working with Elizabeth and the planning department, you're working with the town. We are in a very awkward position. And any help we can get, Mr. Freeman, from my perspective, is important to us, and it's important for the residents of the town to hear. So I am in support of the petition. Thank you.
If I may just, we're not going to try to resist that. Again, I respect that. I had a feeling that's what you folks would say, and so I would just, well, after you vote, I would just ask on the logistical things about, could you select one of the firms tonight? You need to get proposals. I can tell you that there's no conflict with any of those firms that I believe it was Stephanie mentioned. They're all extremely competent. I've worked with all of them. So again, if you do vote to proceed, we would just want to, make it as expeditious as possible. That's all.
Thank you. Bob?
Mr. Freeman, you said you're not going to attempt to block us. How would you block us if you
No, I mean,
attempted
just
it?
in the discussion tonight. I mean, it seems as though you want to do it, and that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it should be the full review. I'm very troubled. We all know that the Cape Orleans population in the summertime goes from 6,000 to 20,000 people. But the traffic study that we have uses a figure of 44% for July over April. So I really I think we need to do a full-blown study because I question the study that the developer presented.
So if I could segue on that, Mr. Chairman, being an engineer, I do agree with Mr. Freeman's comments on the site distance, although that's a very easy thing to look at. I mean, you can go out there yourself and do site. So things like that, I agree, but it's very important as far as I'm concerned.
Well,
I was just going to say about the need for a full new review instead of the partial, as Attorney Freeman was saying, so I totally agree with that. And just the fact that we live here, and with that parcel of land being empty, and the amount of traffic that we have in the summer times is really enough of evidence to me that having so many more cars on Route 6A has to be a significant impact. So I'm in support of having this reviewed.
so, all right. Do we have Austin, any comments?
I think the only thing that I think would be necessary to review is related to the level of service. I had some questions in the previous hearing about that 44% number. I think expanding that to see what is the reasonable capacity of this location. At what point do we actually start to see negative impacts, and knowing how close we are, I think that added level of detail will be necessary. I don't personally see the need for things unrelated to level of service. Emergency vehicle access, I think, would directly relate to level of service in that regard. I think a tailored approach would be fine, but again, I would support any amount of re-review. board finds that appropriate.
Let me ask council here for some guidance on if we vote to have a review done, is it required that as part of our vote be to define the scope of that review?
Typically, when you hire a peer reviewer, you do define the scope of what you're hiring them for,
Okay.
yes.
I'll admit I'm way over my head on the issue of scope. So I would defer to the engineers on this committee. And I'm bookended by the two engineers on this committee. You, either one of you want to make a motion with a,
You're in support of the full study?
I'm in support of a full study.
If you don't mind, I can support, but if you don't mind making the motion, I'd be happy to second.
Any comments, Martin?
I think we should do a study. I'm not familiar enough to know, partial, full, but I would think that an engineering company doing these that's familiar with the Cape, such as the three that were mentioned, would better understand traffic around our area here than some generic company. I don't know who did it exactly, but I think somebody from this area would be better served to do a traffic study. And let them, decide whether, how much change has to be done to the study over what was done.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Point of information before you vote, and of course you can ask council, but it shouldn't be calling for a study. It's a review, a full review of our TIA traffic impact assessment.
I think that's actually in the, it's well-written document. We're calling for an independent third-party traffic engineering peer review. Is that the appropriate?
Right, and that's appropriate, but a couple of, I didn't mean to be hypocritical, but
No.
a couple of you folks had mentioned the word study, and it's not a
Just
nuisance.
stated then, peer review.
Yeah, thank you.
It goes back to the quality of this petition, frankly.
Agreed?
So do we have you proposing, are you proposing a full review?
I move that we propose a full review as laid out in the petition.
Second that.
Any discussion? All right, I'll call the vote.
I do have one. So, depending on the engineer who's chosen, being a former engineer and knowing how everyone is busy, particularly this time of year, picking just one might not be the appropriate time now. I think we would probably have to consult to find out who can perhaps do it in the best time frame, because this is a time-sensitive issue. You mentioned that you would like us to pick one. I don't know if that's possible.
So I just wanted to get up and clarify next steps here. So assuming the board will vote to peer review the traffic study, I would work with probably our director of public works to select a series of firms who we would then put out a request to have the peer review traffic study, again, asking both quotes on time frame as well as cost overall for that peer review. We can look at those. I would ask perhaps to work with the chair just to expedite the process going forward, to look at those to look at the different proposals as they come in, and select a firm to represent us going forward, and then that we would conduct the peer review.
And that would
from then
include the
on.
three that were just mentioned.
I'm not familiar with all three of those, and I think I would probably lean on the expertise of our director of public works to help me put together that list.
Well, I think it'd be important to include them since they were mentioned by the petitioners.
We'll certainly have, I think, the director look at those, and if he thinks they're suitable, include them in the request for
Again, as I
quotes.
mentioned earlier, I feel like the ZBA is kind of on an island here. So it's the town, the planning department, the applicants, and then there's us. And so we need all the help we can get. And that's why I'm just saying, if you could include those three in your request, that would be,
Assuming those are, yes, and I have no doubt, again, based on the completeness of the petition, that those are excellent candidates. Assuming there are no issues with their qualifications, we will we will put together that request for qualifications, and should they respond appropriately, then yes, they would be
And you're aware
included.
of the time sensitivity that Mr. Freeman is bringing up?
So the board has, at this point, 180 days to
November.
conduct the review of the hearing. So at this point, that is the time frame which we're working in, and hopefully, again, we will ask for responses, both in terms of cost and the ability to produce a report in the reasonable time frame.
Jerry, could I ask a question of town council? Do we have the option of choosing the person to do the review, or do we have to do it, does the town get to decide for us?
Requests for qualifications have to be sent out, so you can't just pick one without asking them first all the things that Ms. Jenkins just mentioned in terms of their, whether they can complete the scope of work, what the time frame is, what the cost is, and then compare them.
I understand that, but do we get to make the final decision on who that would be?
Yeah, but then you do get to vote, that is correct.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Call the roll. Sibel,
Yes.
Austin,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
and I'm also a yes, so that's a 5-0. So we will do a traffic peer review study, as requested in the petition. And again, I want to commend the two ladies who put that together. It was very well done. So, having said that, there'll be no more discussion of traffic tonight. What we was referred to, so the public understands, we are under a time frame of 180 days once the filing of the petition, the opening of the hearings, I guess. And if we don't complete our work within 180 days, they have an automatic right to do as they want to do. So we have this ticking time clock, which calls for us to be a little more efficient than we have been to date. Which is why, as I opened my remarks, I talked about trying to get substantive issues on the table and not waste our time on non-substantives. And now traffic is off the table. Any of you who wanted to speak on traffic, I apologize, I didn't get the chance, but in the interest of moving forward, we're going to move on. Next.
Okay.
I should say the board is delighted to welcome a recent alumna of the zoning board.
So,
Ms.
hi.
Eichel, who graduated from the zoning board to the
I
planning
did.
board.
So Lynn Eichel, 39 Old Duck Hole Road. And I have been on this board before. I'm on the planning board currently, not speaking for the planning board, just for myself. I agree with Mr. Little. This board is an island, and I'm kind of glad I'm not there because you're in a tough spot. My recommendation is for another step of review before this board makes a decision about the zoning waivers. And the suggestion is that the ZBA request the select board to call for a gathering of the architects in this town who have spoken about this project, and as appropriate, members of the Architectural Review Committee, and sit down with the developers and go through an issue that is in this board's purview, which is the character and appropriateness of this project for the town, and whether its character and appropriateness can be improved, as some of our architects in town have suggested. So another step, which is an ad hoc group that includes some architects, as well as there's one on the Architectural Review Committee, other members of the Architectural Review Committee, to sit down with the developers. At the first meeting the ZBA held, the developers suggested they would sit down with a small group and work on the design, and that the only review that has happened so far is a 20-30-minute discussion at the ARC, which was quick. It resulted in a letter about some of the aesthetics of the larger buildings, and the developers did make some good changes, but a thorough review of the design that has been recommended and suggested by architects in this town in testimony to you has not been done. And so I'd ask the board to request that the select board allow that ad hoc review to happen during the 180 days. This project is is large and important and prominent in town. And doing it right is not only about this project, but about the town's goals for affordable and attainable housing and meeting those goals over the next 20 years. And if we do something that people think it doesn't look good and appropriate for the town, it will damage those efforts to create affordable and attainable housing and set us back in our recent zoning overlay that we passed, which was to encourage attainable and affordable housing. So I request that the board asks the select board to take that step so that you are not in the position of yourself trying to do that review of the appropriateness for the character of the town, of the design. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Eichel. Yeah, please, yeah.
So, Ms. Eichholt, what another difficulty that we as the board are having, and I'm on page 17 of the Chapter 40B Handbook for Zoning Board of Appeals. It talks about the applicants bringing preliminary site development plans with locations and outlines of proposed buildings, preliminary scaled architectural drawings prepared by a registered architect with typical floor plans, elevations, and sections, a preliminary subdivision plan that if it involves a subdivision. And unfortunately, the process that this 40B, the way that it evolved was an RFP was put out by the select board that was put together by a committee, a steering committee. And at some point, the applicants that are before the zoning board right now have told us that we can't make substantive changes to their plans. Well, had they followed their own 40B handbook and come in with preliminary plans, we would have been in a tremendous position to work with the applicants on a design that might be more in keeping with the town. But as we've heard at the past 3 meetings from Mr. Freeman, oh no, we can't make substantive changes at this point. It's just not possible. Well, I am very frustrated with the process that this occurred, that this group was led to believe that what they were bringing before the zoning board was an approved plan of a project that it wasn't being able, that we aren't able to work with them on. So that's a response to your question. We're in a very awkward position right now.
Right. And again, I think nothing, though, prohibits you from asking the select board.
No, I agree.
To take this extra step and allow some of the concerns that, our architects who live and work in this town have about the project to be reviewed and discussed with the
And 2 of the
developers.
select board members are sitting here right now.
Right.
So they've
So
heard you.
yeah.
I think if we get into a debate on each speaker, I think we'll never get through tonight.
Well,
think we ought to let them-
I'm having a hard time keeping my mouth shut.
Maybe I can help you.
Okay.
Jerry, briefly for the previous speaker, we did make some suggestions early on. One was because of the massiveness of especially of building number 1, that they would consider breaking it in 2. And the answer was no, they couldn't do that. So it's a little frustrating. It isn't like we haven't been making suggestions. We have been. We've suggested that they move the Habitat housing as an aside. I think the whole property should have been used for Habitat for housing, but rather than this massive development, but that's another story. But no, that was not feasible either. So we just keep running up against a stone wall here. We're not sensing any willingness to compromise. And the other thing that we haven't done is ask for peer review to see, do they really need this much building? Specifically
So that's
60
beyond our purview, Bob. That's what we,
well, no, but from a peer, just to see, one of the changes that we can't request is if it's not profitable for them. And we've not done that. But I'll let it go.
I'll just suggest if the board does want to, assemble a subcommittee on design, you would not need the select board to do that. I think certainly putting together a subcommittee of the zoning board of appeals with support from others, as potentially suggested, would be within the purview of this board and potentially be a constructive step forward.
I'll just make the general observation that this statute, written in 1969, as I indicated, I don't think ever envisioned something called a friendly 40B. And I think it was never, the whole purpose of 40B was to have unfriendly hearings, towns being forced to take affordable housing they did not want. And the statute's written that way, and over the years, friendly 40Bs have come into being, and the statute was never envisioned to do that, and that's why we're feeling this island. Just as I say every one of our hearings, I don't mean to prolong this, but from our perspective, sitting with the developers here are the 5 selectmen. This is their proposal. They've committed, they've committed to give the land, which the town paid $2.7 million, I think, for, something in that neighborhood. So this is the town's proposal that we're being asked to judge. We being an appointed board of the town. It's a very convoluted process, and I don't think it was ever intended by the statute. But that's just general comments. If we respond to everyone speaking, we'll be here till midnight, and we'll advance this. So let's hold off our comments at the end of the night, see where we are. Please.
I'll try.
Would agree. I budged my way in front of these 2 nice women because I want to continue the discussion exactly about design with another proposal for you
Please tell
and
us
some
who you-
details that I'd like to get on the record.
Please tell us who you are.
I will. My name is Debbie Oakes. I am a resident of Orleans, 21 Heritage Drive. I'm the current chair of the planning board, but I'm only speaking in my personal capacity, not for the planning board. And I would like to speak to the element of design and the process by which we are called to assess and then accept both site and building design for proposed development projects. Commentators in the past hearings have asserted extensive community engagement regarding the design of the Governor Prince project. In my judgment, this is not the case, not because of any misstep by the developers, but rather because of inherent inadequacies in the public and internal review process. I served on the Governor Prince Redevelopment Planning Committee, and though I did not agree with all the conclusions, there was a community process which culminated in a report with 7 recommendations. The committee recommended elements and features that would address a range of needs and goals for housing in Orleans, diversity in housing types, and affordable as well as attainable options. It was a creative and customized approach. Indeed, in those recommendations was, quote, a high bar with regard to site and building design excellence to create a neighborhood that would be an asset to the town for many years to come. In section 6.5 of the RFP issued by the town and headed Site and Building Design and Aesthetics, it is reiterated the recommendation with this general statement. Given the property's high visibility and significant public investment, proposers are urged to incorporate high-quality design into the site plan and architecture. The RFP then goes on to refer to various design guidelines. The later section 7.7 includes a provision called community engagement, stating that apart from formal public comment as part of permitting processes, the developer will be expected to enable public review of plans as they develop so the public can be kept informed of progress, and be assured of consideration of all legitimate concerns. This can be done at periodic public meetings of the Affordable Housing Trust Board or the Select Board. The developer is free to supplement these efforts with additional methods of public engagement. This RFP was issued via the procurement process, which is a closed process. We now know that there were 2 proposals received. Only the proposal submitted by POA and Habitat met the criteria. And this is right where the review process fails. The submission should have been taken as a concept or preliminary design and not as a final proposal. If an individual consults with an architect for a new house and provides wishes, wants, and parameters, etc., they will receive in return a preliminary concept to consider. At this point, the parties enter into a dialogue, which ultimately leads to the final design. In the town's review process, however, there was no opportunity for meaningful dialogue at all. Rather, it proceeds on the unreasonable inherent assumption that a submission in response to an RFP reflects a fully developed design ready for construction documents. Even if the RFP contemplated some form of dialogue, or even as it did contemplate some form of dialogue, this did not happen. Given that this development is so important to the town, I submit that we need that missing dialogue, and that it ought to include not only the community at large, but even more importantly, professionals who can address issues and choices from a real knowledge of design principles and not merely personal preference or comfort. This additional step doesn't have to cause delays. It can be written in as one of the conditions attached to the permit. That was my random suggestion. Elizabeth just said an ad hoc committee could be formed. It doesn't have to be adversarial. Rather, we are looking for constructive engagement with the town's interests as represented by local resident professionals. This is a friendly 40B process, we are told, and Union Studio has already stated a willingness to meet with those local architects who have come forward to volunteer their time and expertise. I just want to add, the local comprehensive plan recently adopted by the town states that the community design goal is to make Orleans a model of good design by protecting, enhancing, and improving the town's built and natural environment for the benefit and enjoyment of residents and visitors. If we want to be true to that goal, if we want to treat it as an actual attainable objective and not mere lip service to a vague concept of excellence, it is only natural and reasonable that we should avail ourselves of professional architectural guidance before we create structures we'll have to live with for many decades to come. And that is exactly what the comprehensive plan contemplates when it specifically lists under objectives and actions related to this community design goal, establishing a panel to include at least one professional architect, urban designer, and landscape designer to be retained on behalf of the town to represent the design interests of the town in all significant design and development projects. We haven't done this yet. I submit that clearly, as we embark on this hugely significant project, now is the time. Please, I urge you to exercise your authority here to create a vehicle for the missing dialogue I referred to earlier, and to build in an aesthetic safeguard that is plain to see we need, and which we clearly envisioned in the town's guiding document. Bring this part of the comprehensive plan to life and condition your approval of the permit on further design development in collaboration with a panel established to represent the town's interests in excellence in design. Thank you.
So one question. Did your committee that you served on ever see this plan as a committee?
No.
Do you know who did? I mean, we're at a C here and don't know how this got to be.
That's where you get to the procurement process. That is the process used when you put out bids for, doing a project or buying toilet paper. It's a defined process where you send out bids, they're secret, they're closed. There's a committee of some sort or town employees who review the bids and make the decisions based on whatever criteria there is. After that, I never saw anything until after the award was made.
That's been very enlightening. Thank you.
Okay.
Hello. Sorry, I'm nervous.
Don't be nervous, we're not. We're more afraid than you are.
My name is Mallory Quarles,
I'm
80,
sorry, your name again, please?
Mallory Quarles, 80 Route 6A. I can see Governor Prince from my market rate rental. I have a few things to say, but I wanted to mention before I do, thank you for clarifying that we aren't allowed to speak to the need, but I just want you as a committee to be aware, there are several people here who wanted to speak to that need in support of it that weren't able to be here last time.
Well, they shouldn't have been allowed to speak last time either, and that's my fault. So they're here, and it's my mistake.
So, as a resident of this town, I should also say I'm on the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board, but I am speaking as a resident. I also work for HPC and formerly CDP, so this is nothing new for me. But I am speaking as a resident who can see this property from my market rate rental. And I was part of this community input process from the beginning years and years ago. So I don't know where all you were, but I was part of it and I was happy to be part of it. I believe that this project fits the Cape vernacular. It puts density where it needs to be in the center of our town. And 3 to 4 story buildings don't quote unquote tower over anything. So when I hear people speak from a place of privilege and say that this will tower over their view from the bike path, I walk down the bike path every day and I bike down it. I am willing to sacrifice the view for 2 minutes of my walk or 30 seconds of my bike ride if it means that literally hundreds of people will receive attainable housing. And I also wanted to just mention that you hear a lot of opposition here. There are a lot of people, probably twice as many, in favor of this than opposed to it. Those people are at home caring for their kids, couldn't get childcare, they're working 2 or 3 jobs, or they've been forced out of the area because there are no affordable or attainable rentals. So I just want to let you know, it's very hard to focus on and prioritize things like a ZBA hearing when you don't know where you're going to sleep. Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
Good evening. I'm Carol Baffy Dugan. I live at 56 Freedom Trail. I am also an abutter, and I guess I could just say ditto. I showed up because I thought the only people that came to these are the ones with complaints or suggestions that are going to delay, and I wanted you to hear from an abutter who walks on the trail every day, who drives around that circle in front of the Lost Dog almost every day, who walks up to the hardware store every day. Is there going to be more traffic? Of course. Is the building going to be 3 stories? Of course. Change happens. I know it's hard for people, but if you look around, there's been a lot of change already. Some of it's been good, some of it's been bad, and to me, the worst of the change in the 13 years I've lived here is that middle-income people can't live here anymore. So if we're going to squabble over roof lines and curbstones while these people are lost to our community, we need them. I know I'm not supposed to talk about need, I apologize. But I wanted you to hear from somebody who's going to look at the back of that building every day and be happy that we're going to have 78 units of people in my downtown area who are going to work at my library, hopefully, or at friends, or have kids playing in the neighborhood. It's something we need to do. I don't envy you the job you have, but please don't let too many of these delay tactics keep pushing this away, and we lose this wonderful opportunity. Thank you.
I just want to make a comment for everyone. In the interest of community and interest of getting along, I don't think we should conflate concerns about design with denying the need for affordable housing. The two can exist in harmony. People who are complaining about design, I think many of them strongly believe as much as you do in affordable housing. And I think we do a disservice to commenters by conflating the two. That it's some sort of, that everyone who comes is secretly trying to reduce the number of affording housing in the town. That's just a general, some are, but some aren't, a lot aren't. So, basically.
Hi, I agree with that, actually.
So I'm Jamie Demas, 5 Pinnacle Lane. And first, thank you for your service to the town. I know this has been a challenge for you for this board not to approve this application or support this application. Well, I see it a little differently. I think the select board and the ZBA represent the citizens of Orleans. 10 men and 2 women must not make decisions in a vacuum. I mean, you are all dedicated public servants, and you all act in the town's collective best interest. So just wanted to throw that out there. Secondly, kind of following up on what was said earlier, I reread the Governor Prince redevelopment plan. I also was involved. I took the surveys. I did all of that stuff, and I was also wondering, after I reread the RFP, what happened to that whole process of review that was supposed to be part of the RFP. But anyway, I concluded that the town response to the plan was not as black and white as what has been represented at these hearings thus far. And I would point to page 87. I would point to page 87 of the plan, which summarizes results of the town survey on the preferred use of the site. And I can hand out copies of these in case you haven't read the 138-page document again recently, but.
Thank you.
And I'm just going to speak to this pie chart, just because, once again, it isn't.
Thank you.
It isn't really black and white.
Can you say it closer to the mic? I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't know.
Actually, it's cutting in and out, so I'm gonna replace it with another one. Oh, sorry about that. You guys don't mind maybe sharing this one?
Take his.
Thanks for not taking mine.
Yeah, okay.
Make sure you guys are heard.
Okay, let's see. Oh, that's much better. Okay. Okay, so anyway, I was speaking to page 87 of the Governor Prince redevelopment plan, which I reread over the weekend, and only 25% of the survey respondents wanted all housing on the site. 29% wanted mixed use with primarily housing, but with some community space. 22% wanted a 50-50 split in housing and a community center, and 24% wanted primarily or all a community center, basically. So I'm just pointing out that that's.
I'm going to give this to the applicants. I think this is
Yeah.
very telling.
Okay, great. And then, also the town was surveyed on the visual appeal of various housing designs, and they all scored really low. Like the average rating was 2.66 out of 5 of all the pictures we were shown. I remember taking the survey at the time. Nobody really liked the designs that were presented, just pointing that out. In closing, I just wanted to suggest some ideas. I mean, just speaking to the density, which I think has been a little bit of an issue in the size of the buildings, it just kind of struck me that the large size of the rental units are really in support of these habitat homes and townhouses, and just trying to squeeze in the maximum amount of housing might not be, the best use of the space, and that by maybe reducing the habitat homes, those homes could actually be more attractive to potential residents that might want to come in, because right now they're just being dwarfed by building 2. They have hardly any yard. I think they're asking for a variance of a 2-foot side yard, and they have almost no front yard. And I think maybe 1 less or 2 less would make those much more attractive potentially to town employees, who might want to live there. Perhaps the same thing, with the townhouses, and then maybe that makes the finances work better because you're not having to need all these rentals to support these other homes. It's just a thought. Last thing I'll say is just that the footprint of the office space looked to me like it was about 1,000 square feet. There's like a very large reception area, 2 large conference spaces, a small meeting room, and in addition to the leasing office, and it seemed like that was a very large space that perhaps could be reduced. But thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you.
I'm Wendy Riviere. I live at 51 Clayton Circle in Orleans, and I have grandparents and great-grandparents who've lived on Orleans for since 1921. So I come from understanding that Orleans was a town that had families, and I was much encouraged after the fair housing went in, and that the Orleans Elementary School increased its enrollment by over 18 students. And I support affordable housing because I want this to be a town of families and children and futures. And right now, it is a town which is predominantly people of a certain age, and that is a death sentence for the town. And this is too beautiful of a place to have that happen. So I would really encourage us to move forward. I understand the concerns that this committee has expressed, and I appreciate all the consideration you're giving this. But I also think that there was a lot in the original discussions about how the property should be used, and a lot of interviews with business owners about the need for housing and the need for a place for their employees to live. And I do know that there are a lot of places that have help wanted signs that aren't getting filled because people can't afford to live here. So I thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much. Let me reiterate that the issue of, we don't have anything to do with the number of units and the type of units they are in terms of affordability. We're just talking about we're the zoning board of appeals. We just talk about physical things. And all of our hearings are about how buildings fit into this town and into the neighborhoods. That's the extent of our concern. I know that affordable housing has more passion to it, and this is hopefully dispassionate, but it does involve aesthetics, so people get passionate about aesthetics. But please, no more, if we will never get through here, if everybody who wants to talk about how we need more housing and should close our eyes to anything to do with the physical aspects of this project. Our job is exclusively to look at the physical aspects of this project. It's not to look at the underlying purpose of it, it's to look at this project and how it fits into the town, physically. Not spiritually, not demographically, how it looks in the appearance of it on the site in real life. Thank you.
Hopefully it'll fit into those. Scott Zenke, Doan Road. I'd like to go back to May of 21 and actually what we purchased at town warrant, Article 23. In Article 23, it will use the phrase general municipal purposes. If you look up general municipal purposes in Massachusetts, core functions and services are community space, operating public parks, rec centers, community centers, library, and public housing. The warrant article itself, Article 23, states, to see the town will vote to authorize, direct the Select Board and/or Town of Orleans Affordable Housing Trust Fund to acquire by gift, purchase, or eminent domain or otherwise for general municipal purposes, including but not limited to
Sir, please,
affordable housing.
Please, how do your comments relate to this project as we're looking at it physically?
I think
I
it
understand
is.
where you're going. You're going that it shouldn't be for affordable housing. That's nothing to do with this committee.
What I'm stating is what we voted on was a use of this property to be somewhat general municipal services, not 100% housing.
That's an issue you should take up with the select board.
And
I'm afraid that it's nothing to do with this hearing. I'm sorry,
And
sir.
it should be taken up with the select board. The summary to that article, the summary to the Warren article stated, this article will fund the purchase of the former Governor Prentz Motel and office building properties on Route 6A for general municipal purposes and some affordable housing. Some affordable housing. So
That ship has sailed and it's in a different harbor, okay? This harbor is this project, how it looks in the town, how it fits into the town, its size, its impact on physical aspects of this town. This hearing has nothing to do with the use of this property.
Well, then
Nothing to do.
Then we should tell Mr. Zenke to go to the select board.
The select board is where it belongs. I said in
The
my
ship has
remarks.
sailed. They didn't abide by what we voted for.
Then vote them out.
As far as the design Obviously, it's way too large for that property. With no review, we don't even have a spur going up to the rail trail to get down to 6A or 28. You get several ice cream shops, multiple restaurants that would love the business coming off the rail trail. It's not there. So as far as doing anything architectural-wise to improve this town, we've fallen flat on our face. Thank you. Thank you for what you do.
Good evening. My name is John Williams. I live at 10 Fox Ridge Drive, Orleans. I've been a resident full-time in Orleans for over 30 years. I just have to say I cannot water my lawn because there's not enough water in town, and I cannot connect to a sewer. What's wrong? Thank you.
Mr. Nojo.
Hi, Mark Norjo, Barley Neck Road. I will speak to this issue. In 1954 or so, the town adopted a zoning bylaw, and it was called a zoning protective bylaw, and it was kind of early in Massachusetts, and it was there for the protection of the development of the town. Somewhere along the line, the term protective got dropped out of the bylaw situation, but I think it's still the responsibility. It's falling to you in this particular instance because it's already out of somebody else's station, but it's falling to you, and your responsibilities allow you, I believe, to attack, or I shouldn't say attack, but to approach density and building height in this particular building. And I think that it would be, I said in my earlier remarks the last time I was here, was that if the board allows this to go through before the various departments of Orleans understand what it is to have not only 2 3-story buildings, but a third one, and I don't know what's going in at Cuffey's, but another large development that may have 3 stories. So that's going to have tremendous latent tax and service effects on the town. And I think that falls within the purview of the Zoning Board of Appeals to say, let's do what we can to put this thing. I asked you before to table it, and I understand you can't do that. But if you could just say, let's reduce that density to what our density is today. Why does the proposal come in at double the allowed density of what Joe Smith can do if he was going to build an affordable housing unit? And why do they get to have a 35 or 7-foot building height when it's like 15% less than that for every other Joe? So I think that the petitioners, and I understand they know what they're doing. That this is their business. They're a national firm. They have a lot of cash. I don't think you said the other day you felt bad because there was a certain amount. You felt some responsibility because there was a certain amount of cash that was expended on their part to put this plan where it is now. And I think that they can afford that, and they know the risks that are involved in that. So I hope you won't let that persuade you in your vote. And I would ask that you do what you can to reduce the density down to what it is for everybody else, and reduce the height. And if they can still stay in the game with that, then I think probably our goose is cooked as far as that project is concerned. I don't love the project, but I will say too, I appreciate your efforts. I know that it's not easy. I'm sorry that it's fallen to you. I don't think that there was a community question that said, I never saw this plan until recently, and I don't think anybody else did. And I talked to a lot of people, and I have yet to find somebody who has a nephew or a niece or a grandson or a friend or a neighbor that's found themselves eligible for one of these projects. I am very much in favor of Habitat and HAC, but I think the larger project is possibly too much with fire and other protection and so on. So thank you very much for your time.
Hello, my name is Emma Fillion. I grew up in Provincetown. I work here in Orleans. I am also the founder of a nonprofit that serves young adults in Orleans and across the Cape. And I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of a lot of my friends and a lot of other folks who could not be here. I work in this realm now, and as I sit in this room, I really think to myself how fortunate the people are in this room.
Emma, what do you think of the size of the buildings? What do you think of the location of these buildings? What do you think of the drainage on the property? What do you think of the height limitations? That's our concern. I know where you're going, and it's emotional and heartfelt, and you want to say it here, but we don't have anything to do with that. You might as well go down the street and talk to somebody on a bench to tell us that we need more affordable housing. in
Excuse
town.
me, would you please let me speak? I'm the only person here who has stood up to speak under the age of 35.
Please be relevant to our hearing. Please, no matter what your age or who you're speaking for, please be relevant to the topic at hand tonight.
Yes. So, understanding that this is a ZBA meeting, the folks here are very fortunate that their primary concern, and I'm not going to get too far into need, but are very fortunate that their primary concern is traffic and building height. A lot of the people here in this room have houses sorry, I was thrown a little off guard. As a young person who actually grew up in affordable housing, who has spent my teenage years in affordable housing, I would agree and say no, in some ways it's not perfect. But also I think that there are a lot of young people here tonight who are not here tonight, and a lot of other people who are here that don't understand that with certain amounts of delays, that projects do not get finished. And I'm here to say that people who are young and living on the Cape who want to stay here don't have time.
Could I ask one question? Could you tell me, before you leave, could you tell me how many of your friends or coworkers got into any of the units built in the last couple of years? Did they apply?
Can't hear you. Bob, you got to speak into the microphone.
I'm sorry, we don't have the mic. They took my mic away. I was just wondering how many of your friends or folks you work with applied to 107 Main Street and or the Penrose project, and how many got in?
There's people here who can answer that, but you wouldn't let us speak about it.
I don't think that that question is asked in a fair sense. I'd also like to, we did a survey at the organization, and I think that there needs to be a lot of education done surrounding affordable and attainable housing, because almost 50% of the people who responded are living at home or in a family's home. I'm not here to tell you about who of my friends got into affordable or attainable housing at this time.
My only point is that we've built, when you factor in the Underground Mall, 105 units of housing. And I was just curious to see if any of your friends were able to get accepted there, that's all.
It's not affordable over there. It's market rate.
Penrose is market rate?
Have
Never,
any of you lived in affordable or attainable housing? I was just asked a question about my friends. I'm the first to say that it's not perfect.
I was just curious to see if any of your friends had gotten into Penrose, which
How
is
is that relevant?
well, if any of them, I don't know, it's relevant in the same sense that to what you're speaking to, I think, but we'll let it go.
Point of information, we gave the data on local residents in our 107 Housing Assistance Corp's 107 Main Street. We gave you that information.
Didn't give it for Penrose. Were you able to get that,
Not our
David?
project, and I was just going to say, everybody seems to want to interrupt everybody tonight. that I believe that Elizabeth Jenkins has gotten the data, which is appropriate, because we're a private developer team, and so is Penrose, but I believe that Elizabeth has the data. I spoke with her about it because you had asked for that at the last hearing. So it's available to the board.
We've asked for it for 2 or 3 hearings, and we still haven't seen it.
I'm just pointing out that I believe that Elizabeth has it.
All right, I'm sorry if I appear a little frustrated, but this is our 9th hour of this hearing, believe it or not. Some of you have been here for an hour and 20 minutes. This is our 4th hearing, and we're trying to make progress on what our responsibilities are. And all anyone wants to do at these hearings is talk about the need for affordable housing. And we can, everyone on this committee can vote that we should have 10 times as much affordable housing, but it has nothing to do with this hearing or this committee. We are a zoning board of appeals. We just deal with physical structures. We just deal with the buildings as they are. We can't increase the number. We can't decrease the number. This is a limited hearing. This isn't a. You need to go to the select board or the affordable housing board or someone whose purview is this issue. We're engineers. I'm just a dumb lawyer banker. I mean, I don't know anything about affordable housing. Our job is to look at this building, how it impacts everything we do with this board. Everything we do year in and year out has to do with the physical appearance of the town. And how anybody comes to us and they say we want to do this or that with the land, and we need to get a waiver from the zoning bylaw. That's what we do. We don't know anything about. We do know we have personal feelings, but our responsibility is to respond to this project as the mass state law mandates us to, and it specifically excludes us from talking about affordable housing. The statute is very clear. That is not our purview. Very clear. But we can sit here and people talk about this all night, but we're not accomplishing what this board needs to do is get public input on the physical aspects of this building and whether it fits with this town or not. The purpose of it doesn't come to play, frankly. Council.
Mr. Chair, through you, since Kate Connolly, Town Council, since I was asked to be here to help guide us all back to where we're supposed to be, I really do need to repeat what the chair said in the beginning, and I can tell you where in the regulations it is stated that this board has no jurisdiction over the need for affordable housing. It may be an emotional topic, but that is not their purview. That is not something that they're in a position to discuss. They're here to review an application. They do not have authority to discuss number of units, size of the buildings, the tenants that get to go in there. As the chair said earlier, their purview is things like environmental issues, buildings, site design, open space. The regulations specifically, which I know you're aware of, somebody cited them earlier, it's 760 CMR 5, the exact section is 56044 is where the findings are. And there are 7 different areas, which I won't read in detail, but I'm going to quickly summarize. This board can look at whether the proposed project appears generally eligible under the requirements that are set forth in greater detail in these regs. Secondly, the site of the project is generally appropriate for residential development, taking into consideration information provided by the municipality or other parties regarding municipal actions previously taken to meet the affordable housing needs. That's a long one. The third one, conceptual project design, that it is generally appropriate for the site. Fourth, that the proposed project appears financially feasible within the housing market. That the next one is that the initial pro forma that's been reviewed shows that the project appears financially feasible, that the applicant controls the site, and finally, that the applicant is a public agency or a nonprofit. That's it. That's all this board can consider. So again, all the talk about whether we need affordable housing, everybody's got an opinion on that. The state has told us that we need to allow it. So this board isn't going to get anything done if we go on for more and more hours talking about things that they have no jurisdiction over. If you have concerns and things that you want to bring to the appropriate board, the Affordable Housing Trust or the Select Board, that's who you should talk to. Okay, Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Counselor.
That was helpful. I actually came to ask questions, not say anything else. Could you help me, maybe everybody else here, by making up, you're not committing, making up a few possible decisions you, as the ZBA, could make about this project? I'm trying to get my head around what are the things you could say.
Excuse me, so one of the things that we're going to try and get to tonight is a discussion of the requested waivers. A substantive issue, substantive numbers, and we would like to get to that.
Right.
I don't know if we're going to have the opportunity or not.
And if you say no to a waiver, then what?
Well,
I'm just trying to understand the process.
You know what? It's nice that we have town council here with us. Could you answer that question for her? If we say no to a waiver requirement,
Then what's the next step?
what's the next step?
Well, I think there are limited circumstances, and I think I'm actually going to defer to the applicant's counsel.
No,
to
please.
explain.
No,
If-
Well, I haven't looked at all of the waivers that they've requested, but there are certain
I'd
things.
like to think that you're here to help the ZBA in this process.
That's what I'm here for.
Okay.
So there are certain things under state law that this board cannot consider, like local bylaws cannot be considered. But if they request a waiver from a state, like for example, your Conservation Commission has a wetlands protection bylaw, but there's also the State Wetlands Protection Act. They can request a waiver, and you'd have to grant it from the local bylaw, because that's the point of a comprehensive permit, is to allow one board to issue the decision, rather than have the applicant have to go to all of the different boards. But they would still be subject to the State Wetlands Protection Act.
Jerry, could I ask a question?
Let me do this. Let me read the waivers that we're being asked to consider.
You don't need to do them all. I'm just trying to get my head around.
I'll give them to you. I'll give them to everybody so everybody can benefit from this.
Okay.
The first one is use regulation, section 164.13 of the zoning bylaw. There was no labels. General 164.20, a waiver from the requirement for each dwelling unit or guest house on a lot, there shall be required 40,000 square feet of contiguous upland. Requested, lot sizes for lots 2.9, and all the lot sizes are stated out. The next is a waiver from section 164.21 of the zoning bylaw. A waiver is requested from the minimum front yard of 15 feet required. The next is a waiver for the requested maximum building height. The maximum building height is 30 feet. There's several lots in the different buildings looking for different waivers for the building height. A minimum lot size, 164.23, the section of the zoning bylaw on minimum lot size. Apartment development, waivers from section 164.31 of the bylaw. Nothing here about affordable housing. Site plan review, section 164.33, need a waiver from that provision. Off-street parking regulation, section 164.34, need a waiver from that violation. Chapter 192 subdivision rules and regulations, we need waivers from that. Here's one, requested use of HDPE pipe. How about a waiver from the intersections requiring roadway curb radii of at least 20 feet? These are the issues that this board has to go with. We can go through these waivers, and each one of you can speak about what your view is of HDE pipe.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I could answer the previous speaker's question, what happens if we deny a waiver? I just spoke with town council. If we deny a waiver, the applicant can appeal it to the Housing Appeals Committee. And it's a process that they may very likely will have to go through.
Or they could modify their plan.
Or they could, exactly. But we've been told that significant modifications are off the table at this point.
Jerry, a question for town council. If I understand you correctly, you're saying that we have to approve the waivers or we reject the entire application.
No, we can deny a specific waiver.
Well, I know, but if we deny, say for instance, they want to have housing that is twice what the bylaw allows in building number 1. The maximum that our bylaw allows is 20 units, and they want to have 40 units. You're saying that we can't say no to that?
No, I didn't say that.
No, she
Okay.
didn't say that.
Okay, so we can say no to that.
You'd have to have a reasonable basis to deny something, to deny a requested waiver.
Would a reasonable
appeal.
basis be, for instance, that the town residents over the years at town meeting have put in a maximum density that they feel is appropriate, and these folks are doubling it, and so we want to honor the voters? Would that be appropriate?
No, I think I'll jump in.
I don't think we want to go there right now,
I
Bob.
don't think we can
Okay,
do that.
okay.
I think we want to do that. I think what I'd like to get to is people who think the impact of these buildings and that location, would impact whether it fits with the town or not. Assuming that it's a good purpose, we have to assume it's a good purpose, okay? And that's it. We assume it's a good purpose, and the town wants to do it. The town is sitting at this table asking us to approve these things because the town has already voted for affordable housing on this spot. Okay, that's a given. That's what we're given at this committee. We can't change that.
Not the town, the select board.
What did I say?
Not the town, the select board.
All right, the town through the body of the selectmen. And then the selectmen manage this town at the behest of the people who voted them into office. And our role is to the decision of this property being for affordable housing in this amount has already been made. And these people have responded to a request for proposal by the town. Maybe not town meeting, but by the town. The selectmen can bind the town. And the selectmen have bound the town through a request for proposal, and the request for proposal resulted in this development project. So sitting at this table with these people is the selectmen. Okay? This is a town proposal. The town has already given them $2.7 million worth of land. Okay? This is their proposal. This goes through, this is the town sitting here, and somehow we're a subunit of the town appointed by the select board, and in judgment of the actions that they've taken. We're given it's for affordable housing. We can't impact that. We can't increase it. We can't do it. It's what we're given. We're just looking at the physical aspect of this project on this town. And it has been, you may want it to be, I'm not going to get into municipal law because I don't know it, but the selectmen, the select board has the authority to do what it's done on behalf of the town of Orleans.
If I may add to that, Jerry, I believe that what we should do as a board with the applicant is really to serve the town by working as a team. Because obviously we have concerns, we have questions, and we want to make this project successful. So instead of the applicants telling us that this is just a formality, which is kind of what you guys have been saying, we need to work together so that we could make this a success.
We can't do anything without public testimony, okay? We can't do anything without public testimony. What we have to do, if we want to object to one of these waivers, we have to say we object to it for the following reasons. And it's nice to have public testimony of somebody saying, this is a waiver, you're asking to the buildings of this height, it doesn't fit with this town, it doesn't look like this town. But if everybody comes up here and talks about affordable housing, we're not going to get this done. And whether you're for it or against it, you're not going to get it either way. We have to get through this. And if this isn't done in 180 days, they can do whatever they want, and the town has no say. We have 180 days to go through this process and establish a record upon which this committee can act. And we can spend all day talking about the need for affordable housing, but it's not anything to do with us. It's just a waste of our time, frankly. Because that's not the purpose of this hearing. Mr. Freeman, please.
Just a few, I think, points of information, not so much points of order. I want to do something, and I appreciate what Sybil just said. we need to take the temperature down. If you look at it from our side, and I don't want to say that I'm intentionally being misquoted, but I didn't say that you had to accept the project. You legally have a right to deny it. You legally have a right to condition it, and we understand that, and hopefully if that's the case, they'd be workable conditions. What we did say is that we spent a lot of time working with the various boards and departments of the town to come up with a proposal. I don't think, again, sitting from our side, I asked you to recognize this. I don't think I said that you can't make any substantive changes. I did say you can't make substantial changes that significantly change the proposal in the physical sense, the site plan. Again, from our viewpoint, even before the discussion on the architecture, we went to the Architectural Review Committee. We went to the Site Plan Review Committee. Those are committees in the normal process of the town without a 40B project that look at all these things that you were rightly talking about, Mr. Chairman. And we got basically their blessing. That's not an exaggeration. So I just ask you to, just as you listen to everybody speaking, which is your duty, I ask you to remember and look at it from our side. We've done it the way it was intended to be done. And we have worked with the board by virtue of some of the things, such as the significant substantive changes that the architect made. We've listened. We actually did review, and we didn't know if you wanted to hear it. I suggest maybe we put it off for some workshop or something, because I want to keep the temperature down. But we did review the alternative site plan, and we're not just routinely saying, oh, we can't make any changes. We've reviewed it and analyzed it, and if you're interested, I could go through it or give you a memo, but the gist are aspects of that site plan that do not jibe with what we know our project needs are. The reduction in parking, it calls for underground parking, reduction in parking spaces, and it doesn't take into account, the slope, the grading on the side where the habitat is proposed. I'll stop there in terms of the site plan. But I just want to say, let's be open to the fact that...
May I ask you a question?
Sure.
Why, when the 40B handbook suggests it, why didn't you come before any of those boards with preliminary plans and elevations? What was the process that led your group to develop a full-blown set of engineering, 50 some odd pages of plans and documents, and then come to the Zoning Board of Appeals to discuss and say that, I don't know the difference between substantive or substantial, you use both words in the same sentence. Where I'm having difficulty is normally anybody that comes before the Zoning Board of Appeals comes in with preliminary plans with the thought that they're going to need to make changes. In what part of the process did the town select board or did the town housing committee lead you to believe that, because this is where we find ourselves in a very difficult position. I think we probably could have worked together on this really well had you come in with preliminary plans and we, like it talks about in the 40B handbook, and we have the opportunity to work with you. We simply, as you have said, we don't have that opportunity now, Mr. Freeman.
Well,
Can you answer the
yes,
question?
yes, I can answer the process in terms of 40B and what we present to you. I think David and the rest of the team could answer, as they have before, the process with the town prior to that. But the answer is we needed to get the subsidizing agency project eligibility letters before we come. And those plans that we have submitted are considered preliminary. Let me finish. We don't come to a zoning board and say, we have this idea conceptually, maybe we'll put it here, maybe we'll put it there, maybe it'll be 60 units, maybe it'll be 2 buildings instead of 3, 3 buildings instead of 2. We have to have enough concrete proposals.
I understand that, and you have the experts with you, and you have the experts with you at the table that have done this process. You in particular, you have the experts that probably could have done this with a preliminary plan that you knew very well would get approved by that authority. You don't tell me that you're in the blind, that you have to develop a set of plans to put before. You can work with the town on this project, and it just didn't happen that way.
Well, I don't think you're accurate, I must respectfully say, as to what's supposed to happen with the 40B application.
Yeah,
Don't
you're
present
you're darn right.
Don't present
Mr. Chairman, may I suggest that we start going through the waivers and let people then speak to the waivers?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to suggest that we hold off because we don't know what the implications of traffic study are going to be. We don't know what the implications of any study committee, and I don't want to waste your time or my time. I'm close to the point of saying that it does not have the right feeling in terms of trying to work together, and there's no point in going through waivers when we don't know what the ultimate outcome will be. And it's going to be more time than we would like, but we said that's fine. So there's plenty of time to go through waivers when everybody gets their, heads back to a calm level.
Yeah, may I, Chair Mulligan?
No, I want to make first a personal privilege. Mr. Freeman started off by saying reducing the heat, and I want to apologize to everybody in this room that I have added to the heat. And I'm sorry about that. It's a personal failing, and I feel terrible about it. It's just frustrating to be here now in our 8th hour of listening to testimony when we keep saying we don't have anything to do with affordable housing. We're just talking about this project. And it's frustrating to say that and say that and say that, and people still want to get up and just talk about affordable housing. Mr. Freeman, all these people have come. A lot of them want to speak about, I think, germane comments. I don't want to adjourn this meeting. I admit the last meeting was a complete waste of time, and so far tonight we haven't gotten very far on the issues at hand. But a lot of people have come here, and I think some of them want to speak about it. And I would admonish the board that we're going to be here and listen to the speakers and not express our frustrations with the application and the process. I think we ought to stop doing that. We ought to listen to the people who come to speak and address those issues only. Later time, as we go through it one by one, we can wrestle with the applicants. But I don't want to dismiss this crowd, Mr. Freeman, since they came out and want to speak.
That's fine. I certainly agree with that.
And again, I feel I'm humiliated by showing a little bit of heat tonight. And I apologize to Emma, and I apologize to everybody else in the room. I'm sorry about that.
Jerry, could I also just, so that we don't forget before the end of the night, I believe that we should take into consideration about the recommendation to do a design committee to go over as the 2 members of the planning board recommended. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, we can ask the response from the petitioners with that. Let's just get some more testimony. Let's just try to, if we have a question for the person speaking that's germane to what they have said, let's limit ourselves to that tonight. Let's get through this. Let's establish a record we can build on, as opposed to just getting everybody agitated. And let's, as a board, let's stay away from challenging the petitioners. They're here, again, I'll make this point, they're here after responding to a request for proposal by the select board. And the select board sent out that RFP and selected these people, this project, as a town-approved project. And the town was willing to commit substantial sums of money to make this project go forward. And our role tonight, and our role through this whole process, to look at this project from a zoning board of approval type of review. All right? You want to say something, Elizabeth?
No, I think actually both of you just covered what I was going to say. I absolutely think we should hear out public testimony, try to limit dialogue on a person-by-person basis so we can form a sort of collective response, and then think about process, think about conditions, think about ways we can mitigate the issues that we hear at testimony going forward.
Very good. Sir, please come forward.
Howdy. Tim Cunahan, 23 Herringbrook Way. I should say I'm on the Board of Water and Sewer, but I'm not going to speak for the committee. I'm just speaking as a person. I believe that the town passed a zoning bylaw recently to increase the density of housing in the downtown. And a lot of that was because we put in sewers, and sewers allow much more significant density, right? So I don't think that for example, you started to list some of the requirements or the waivers that you're looking for. 40,000 square feet per lot, that's ridiculous in the downtown, right? That we've already zoned around that. Frontage, also sort of irrelevant in the downtown. Height restrictions, I mean, this is in the back of the property. I don't think that is material. I think that there are a lot of, reasons that we can come up to make this a perfect project. But it's never going to be a perfect project. No project is ever perfect, right? Even if we build our own house and we say exactly what we're going to do, we still have financial constraints. And these guys have financial constraints. They require a certain amount of density to be able to build a unit, a property that is financially viable. And I think it requires this amount of density. It requires this kind of planning. So I strongly encourage you to grant them the waivers that are required to do the project. I fully endorse your getting an architectural committee to tune it and to make it look as beautiful as we can, but recognize it's never going to be perfect, right? That doesn't happen, ever, anywhere. And we've got a lot of people explaining why, this or that is going to interfere with our ability to build this project. But I don't believe that any of the zoning laws that you are going to give waivers for materially affect the character of the town. In fact, I think they're going to improve the character of the town because density in the downtown will make the town a much more vital place to live. Thank you.
Mr. Cooney, I had a question. For instance, Building 1, that property is on a rise, as you know.
Mhm.
Building 1 is looking for 39.8 feet, 39.8 inches of feet, 40 feet on a prominence. The height limit in town is 30 feet.
Correct. Yeah, so it's 10 feet higher.
10 feet
But it's
higher.
not on the front, right? It's not on frontage.
It's on a prominence, though, and it's just,
It's further back. I don't believe that should impede our ability to get the sufficient density to make this a financially viable project.
I'm just testing to see, good, thank you, Mr. Goodham.
Jerry, can I add one thing to that?
Yeah.
In the last meeting, the applicants did provide a comparison of all the buildings to what the recently voted zoning, what was compliant, what is not compliant, things like height. This is compliant with that new zoning. Understand that's not the waiver they're specifically asking for, but just in the context, we do have that comparison available for all of the items.
Thank you, Mr. Goodham.
Hi, I'm Alice Thomason, 25 Blueberry Island Road. I just want to thank the board. You've all been incredibly patient and appreciate that you're listening. I will say that having read the RFP myself, as Jamie did, I would concur with many of the points that she made. Embedded in the RFP are URLs to significant key documents in the town that make very clear the desires of aesthetics and quality of life. So those are embedded in the RFP and are asked of the applicant to study those. So they were clear on that. The other day when they, and I appreciate that you've approved a study for traffic, I frankly was a little concerned because if I heard correctly, one of the local intersections that they used as a comparison was Queen Anne Road and Route 124. If I heard that correctly, I was a little stricken by that. I know that intersection well. It has no comparison to what we have out there. So when we're talking about professional standards, sir, I would say if that's one of the professional standards, it's not a high standard. So thank you very much for approving that traffic study. And the other thing I would like to say, I'm an avid all my life reader of the Chronicle as it's been published, and I will say that it's very unfortunate to see that there is, as exemplified tonight as well, this mistaken feeling that concern and criticism about the design and the appropriate aspects of this project have a reflection on the townspeople's feelings for supporting attainable and affordable housing. So thank you, Chair, for making very clear that those are two separate issues and they're not appropriate for your board to consider. And I think it's a kind of a blemish on the town for us to even imply that that's an issue. So thank you.
Peter Haig from 62 Route 6A, direct abutter to this property. And I've been involved in trying to improve this project from the very beginning, from the time we had it announced at town meeting. I wasn't actually at that meeting, but I thought, well, let's give it a try. I volunteered my time to show a number of people, some people who are no longer on the select board, this is going back years now, to show them how you could really make a very good and exciting project of mixed use, of affordable housing, and of market rate housing. Wonderful opportunities. We prepared it, we showed it to several people who were involved with housing. They wanted nothing to do with it. In their mind, right from the beginning, it was housing. That's just the reality of what happened. I don't know, I think it would be really very good if, I don't hold these folks responsible for what the RFP went out. I think the town was not consulted by the selectmen and by the planning department or whoever was in there. And I think it would behoove us to hear from the selectmen to say, whatever the great reasons they had for doing what they did, I'd really love to hear them, because they didn't listen to us. They didn't even listen to that survey. We had this sham meeting together to sort of having a charrette to work on that. None of that was accepted. Anyway, the last thing I would say is I agree with, I was one of the people who volunteered to help. I have no interest in financially in being involved with this project. I will volunteer my time because partly it's right next to my building. And a lot of the other people have agreed to volunteer their time to help make this so. Would be happy to work with the architects. I know we could make it better, but I do believe the issue is not in this room. What I have heard in multiple conversations with I spoke with the town manager, I also spoke with several selectmen. They tell me the reason it's all housing is the money from the state. That's really, I believe, the case. I don't know that. I'd love to have them come here and tell us the reason it all shifted to all housing was because the money it's the hook that the state offers. And I, for one, am kind of sick of being offered this hook to take money from the state to then be indebted to what they're doing. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Haig.
If I may.
Please.
I wanted to come up and clarify that what I was saying before was not to necessarily speak to the need, but rather to make a note of the perspectives that we are hearing in this room and the perspectives that you may have. And that really, pardon, get a bit of stage fright sometimes, but that the people who aren't here to show up, the people who are my age, who are working, that their opinions throughout this process, potentially the people who might live in these apartments, are not being considered because they're working. I had multiple people who I tried to get here. One was sick. 2 were exhausted. Like, these are working class young people who are not able to come to these meetings because they don't know enough about the process. They're intimidated. Everyone who's in the room staring at them is talking about all of these things that they think to themselves, well, maybe I don't know. But to be honest, I like I like the design. I like that it's dense. I like that it's near, it's walking community. Like I said, I grew up in Provincetown, which is a walkable community. I think that it's great that Orleans is trying to make it a more walkable community. People in my age cohort, we talk about, oh, like, let's buy a plot of land and live on a commune. And to your point, I'm not a monolith. And I don't know off the top of my head how many of my friends have applied to affordable or attainable housing. Like, I'm not a monolith, but I do want to make the point for the board's consideration that there are a lot of people who are not in this room tonight who care, who need it, who want it, who don't have a problem with the way that it looks, who haven't been asked, haven't been reached, or don't know how to do it. So that was what I wanted to say.
Ms. Gaskell.
Stephanie Gaskell, Pocher Road. Just one very quick thing. Mr. Mulligan, a few times you referred to the fact that you were appointed by the select board. But I just wanted to make it clear in all of the research that I've been doing that you are an independent body, that you are not an arm of the select board, and that your decisions and opinions are independent within your body. That was all I wanted to make as a point.
Let me pursue that for a second.
Sure.
Do we give any weight to the fact that we're an independent body with limited scope, and the select board, who has a much broader scope and presumably is more representative of the town populace, that this is their proposal? Do we give any weight to that, to that they?
No, you are an independent body. You are supposed to be judging this on what is in.
Don't you think part of our judgment is where the source of this petition we're asked to review?
That is that's your opinion, and if that's the way you're going. I just wanted to point out what Massachusetts law says.
I'm doing Socratic dialogue because I need help with this. I mean, if you can help me, I'm serious. If you need help.
Fine, I will send you some links that explain to you that you are an independent body.
I understand the law.
All right?
I'm just saying the practicalities as we're sitting here, and the town, and sitting at that table is the town fathers who said, this is what this town needs. That's what they're saying. And we're a board, and we're saying, we don't agree with you. I mean, they bring a little more legitimacy to speaking for the town than we do. None of us have run for this board.
Well,
They all go out and they represent the people. Presumably that's how democracy works. You elect a board. They have contact with the community. They represent the community, and they're saying, this is the proposal. Not only that, we're gonna stake a big pile of money on this proposal to support it. I don't know that we can just dismiss that, saying, well, we're independent, and we have to think of where this project comes from. It doesn't come out of the air. It doesn't come out of for-profit developers coming in here. It comes with the full backing of the municipal authority. It's just.
Chair Mulligan, we do have an application at hand to review. I want to note we still have potential public testimony.
Oh, yeah, right.
And that, hopefully, I think we all want to get to a point tonight where we can have a constructive conversation about how to move forward, but
We need
let's hear the rest of the public testimony and then we can have that dialogue.
David?
Elizabeth?
Yes.
So how do we set up a review committee to work with the applicants with architects? I think that's gotten lost in this shuffle.
I agree. So I defer to the chair. I would suggest closing out the public comment portion of the meeting if there's anybody else online to speak, and then we can have a constructive dialogue about process, conditions, committees going forward.
I agree. Elizabeth.
Gary?
Is there anyone else? Yeah.
Just to the young lady that spoke before Stephanie, I certainly relate to working people. My son's ER nurse at the hospital. He works 12-hour shifts, sometimes 14, 16-hour shifts. But I just wanted to point out that your friends could just go on the web and send the ZBA an email stating how they feel. That is an option. They don't have to be here physically. Jerry, one other question for council. If the waivers we choose to grant or not grant are not sufficient for the applicant, so they feel they need to appeal it to the state, to HAC. Would you be the one defending us, or would you assign that to another attorney?
I'm covering for somebody tonight, so I would assume that she would probably want to handle it if that were.
I think we're getting way ahead of ourselves.
Strongly suggest we close out the public comment portion of the hearing, and then we can have a dialogue about next steps and process going forward.
Is there anyone else in this room who wish to speak? Sir? I know. I gotta finish the room first, and we'll go online.
We have to ask Peggy.
Yep.
And again, I think we should limit dialogue, let folks come up, give their testimony, limit dialogue, close the public comment portion of the hearing, and then we can talk about process.
Sir?
Jim O'Brien, Cedar Land Road, longtime resident, along with my wife. Just want to say that I appreciate the time and the frustration that you all have given, and appreciate the comments that have been made. This is not about whether or not we should have more housing. And I think it's unfortunate it's become a we, they, younger generation, older generation, privilege versus non-privilege. It just does not belong here. And so I just am saddened that it's kind of become that way. It was like the fire department issue at town meeting, whether or not if you voted against the new fire station, you were against firemen and against their families and their safety. I mean, that was an unfortunate division that was set up. But I would like to say that I don't believe that this project does fit in within the character of the town, and just to go on record.
Are there any particular aspects you want to comment on about the project?
One in particular is the size and the density. I would be opposed to increasing the height for these buildings. I do have a concern about setbacks. I know that my property setbacks are very rigidly enforced if I want to do anything. And I think that reducing setbacks and reducing open space are a concern. We want to make this as attractive and usable. I also want to just say that it's unfortunate that the public did not have more input into this project for $2.9 million of the town's money and our taxpayer money. We should have had much more input into this project, and I was truthfully surprised to see that the project had gone forward without much more public input as to use.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien.
Hi, my name's Amelia. I live on Old Tote Road in Orleans, and I've lived here for about 10 years. And I just want to say, as someone who might actually want to live in this property, I don't really care about the aesthetic. I think it looks great. I think I just want more options. I think I know a lot of people who just want more options, and I really do agree with what Emma said about time, because we don't have time. I'm also just got off a 12-hour shift at a hospital, and we don't have enough staff, and I get yelled at all day that there's not enough people helping. So I would love more people to be able to move on Cape Cod and work with me. So I really do want options. I want housing. I like this one, and I just wanted to put my testimony in that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Peggy, are there people in the audience who wish to speak in the virtual world? Are there hands raised?
I don't see any hands raised at the moment.
Okay. All right. Well, then there's no one, should we give a minute to them? No? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move we close it to the taking of public testimony
Is there
for
a second
for
to
the for the time being, for today, not.
Second to that?
I'll second that.
Call the roll. Sabel?
Yes.
Austin?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
And I'm also yes. All right, so the public testimony is closed. Do we want to start going through it's 9 o'clock. Do we want to start going? Feels like it's 2 o'clock. It's 9 o'clock. Do you want to start going through the waivers, or what do you suggest, Elizabeth?
I would suggest, I know the applicant submitted a couple of things for the record. If they want the opportunity to speak to those, to give them that opportunity. And then we should have a collective conversation about, I think, next steps, if we want to talk about creating a design review subcommittee as part of this board, and think about identifying the discrete issues that we've heard tonight about areas of concern and strategizing on ways that we can work towards mitigating the negative impacts that have come to the board's attention tonight.
All right. Freeman, you wish to talk about the submissions you've made?
Well, just a few things picking up on what Elizabeth said. There's no formal long presentation because it's not necessary, but what we did submit in response to questions and is hoping to move forward and finalize plans, subject to now what's taking place. I think it's worth putting up on through the projector on the screen, the color-shaded subdivision plan so you and everybody can understand it better. That will take a minute and any questions that you have. The other thing that we submitted is obvious, the updated waiver request list. We also submitted the full set of updated revised civil design, the civil engineering set of plans. And we also submitted, because that had been discussed in the past, some sample housing habitat for Humanity of Cape Cod, sample homeownership association documents. I don't think in any way there's a need to go through them tonight or perhaps never, but, you know, we could talk about them, hopefully, if we do get closer to a deliberation and a conclusion, you know, and I'd like that to be on the record if you have questions, but certainly it's relevant material that you asked for and that would be part of ultimately, perhaps, you know, your deliberations. So, and then, you know, in terms of the waivers, I mean, if you want to spend the time, I mean, we're certainly ready to talk about them, but I still think actually it makes more sense since there are things to go through that could affect those things. And that would just be my suggestion, especially given the need to spend some time on working out good, realistic logistics of some type of committee, which I would say on that score, typically it's called a workshop. It doesn't have pure real legal meaning workshop, but it sort of sets the boundaries a little bit. So just since I mentioned it, if Elizabeth, can you put up on the screen? Oh, there it is. I wasn't looking up. Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Good evening, Taria McGrail with Ty and Bond. So we put together this colored image just to kind of help provide clarity on the different differentiation between the various lots that are proposed in the subdivision plan. So in green there, you can see what we're calling Lot 1. That's the larger of the lots that will have buildings 1 and 2 located on it. In blue, closer to 6A, you have Lot 2 with buildings 3 and 4. And then now on the subdivision plan in shaded gray, you can see we have a private way. So we've developed a private way to give frontage to those habitat lots, which are lots 3 through 9 on the plan and colored in various shades for better visibility. Also, you can see that we've labeled that there's a proposed access and utility easement that is for vehicle traffic and easement of utilities across Lot 1 for the use of Lot 2 and for the other lots. So I don't know if there's any questions in particular, but this is the lot lines that our waivers will be based on.
Mr. Chair, I have one quick question.
Please.
So the addition of the private way to grant frontage to those buildings, that makes sense. The item, or the part underneath Lot 3 that is also shaded gray, is that considered part of the public way, or is that some?
That is considered part of the
private way.
The private way, and the reasoning for that is that we have drainage. Rather than have separate easements carved out for utilities and drainage, we decided to just put it as part of the private way.
Okay.
So we have a drainage system in that location, and also some of the electrical utilities are coming through there.
Okay, and the management of that private way would be, you know, part and parcel of the management of the property and in en masse?
Yeah, that would be based on the agreements that I think have been included.
Both are 2 lanes, 2 lanes of traffic, it's not a. Maybe 2.
Correct. 2 lanes of traffic. I believe it's 20 feet wide on all the drive aisles.
Did you ever think about making it one way?
Well, as you can see on Lot 1 there, if you take a look at the parking, we have 90-degree parking. That's going to function best with the wider aisle. I think the two-way will allow people to get to their units and to their parking area in the most efficient way possible.
Jerry, is this a good time for me to bring up just a couple of areas of concern that also Cape Cod Commission?
Sure. Unless, you know, my thinking is if we have a subgroup, that you would be one of our candidates on that subgroup to deal with these things.
Correct.
But, sure, bring it up now.
So, as you may remember, in our very first meeting, I had brought up two questions, and one had to do with the green space, the park, and I thought that it appeared to be very small compared to the entire lot. And the second question was about parking. How did you and everybody else select 1.5 parking spaces per unit? Because when you, I believe that's not a regulation, but that's something that the developer can come up with. And the state actually, for these kinds of projects, they leave it up to the developer to determine what that number should be. And because we're trying to be a walkable town here, and in looking at even some of the other similar type of housing projects in town, I believe from what I was told that they are fully occupied, and yet their parking spaces seem to be pretty empty. So I was wondering if we could reduce the parking down, which, you know, you guys never really answered that question that I had from that very first meeting. If we could reduce the parking down, that could actually make the green space bigger. And that will also allow more landscaping to buffer the large building in the back. And I believe the Cape Cod Commission also brought the question of parking in their letter as well.
They did.
Yeah, I think I'll turn
Sure,
to the developer.
that's, yeah, good question. That's why we wanted to put something up there, you know, to
Yeah,
see if there were questions. So
I
Dave.
can speak to parking a little bit. I did notice that the commission brought that up as well. I think they recommended us to consider going down to as low as 1.25.
Perhaps even one? Because if you look at other projects, it seems like one even works, especially if
Yeah.
you bring in public transportation into the whole
Sure.
planning.
I'll be honest, this is unique. Usually we're asked to add parking. So the basis of the parking where we have the ownership units, so 17 total units, we thought it was important just for the marketability of the units that there be 2 spots. So I think we're pretty firm on that. And so then that leaves the remaining parking for the 61 rental units. And the ratio of the parking for those, I think, is like 1.44. So I think we could, we need to think about where it would make sense to do that. I think that could be part of the discussion on a design subcommittee if we're heading in that direction. I think there's the possibility of reducing some spots, yeah.
Because you're also trying to be a FIRE certified building. And as you know, for FIRE certification, it's not just a matter of slapping a lot of insulation and solar panels, but it's site considerations and where you put your parking. And one of their recommendations is actually to put it under the building, some parking. So
That would be more challenging, but we could certainly talk through that. Yeah.
Other questions?
Okay. Thanks, Daria.
All right. So what's the board, does the board want to plow through and start going through these waivers and talking about them individually?
Perhaps we don't need to discuss them all, as the applicant noted that there may be some that could be in flux based off of the determinations of traffic and or other design studies. I think there's likely things in here that are not going to change or not change by a substantial portion, things like building coverage, number of units that I think we should probably go through. Sort of like parking. I think there was one maybe there wasn't one here for parking, I don't quite remember. You could probably go through and identify, is this something that is, in flux, or is this something that is
all right.
unchanging or likely to unchange? And I think we can come to some agreement not to spend too much time on things that.
That works.
There is an off-street parking regulation.
The off-street one, and there's like side lot parking or
Yeah.
something, I can't.
Yeah. Well, what's the board's temperature? You want to continue on this and start going through these waivers and identifying where we might have some issues?
Sure.
All right. Why don't we ask the petitioners to start taking us through this and justifying their request for a waiver?
Well, the general justification is reflective of, without getting into the debate, but what we believe is a well-designed project. So obviously that dictates locations and most of the dimensional things. So I'll start off generally, and for details, not so much setbacks, those are pretty simple, but for some of the subdivision things, most likely Taria could, explain things. But the first one under the zoning bylaws is use regulations in terms of the multifamily and the way the buildings are configured. The general requirements requiring, I think somebody noted it earlier, 40,000 square feet of contiguous upland required for each lot, and there's a breakdown in the waiver list that we just submitted. So I don't think we need to go over those details. The next one, schedule of the lot, yard, and bulk requirements. Same thing. It goes through in the table, so to speak. The front yard requirements, the side yard requirements, and the next box or table is the heights, which have been discussed, and as was pointed out by Mr. Higgins, we are going by the underlying zoning, but the comparison that we did at your request, that shows that actually we wouldn't need a waiver on height under the new zoning that was created, the downtown housing overlay district.
May I ask why you're requesting the waivers then?
Because we don't go by it's a choice.
So-
Your zoning bylaw says there's a
So
choice.
that being said, I do have an issue with Lot 1, Building 2 height. Building 2 is going on the highest point of downtown Orleans. Literally, topographically, the highest point on downtown Orleans. I expect that the third floor units are going to have views of Town Cove from there. The problem I have is what that building is going to look like from Route 6A when you're looking up, because it's located on the highest point, and you're asking for a 6-foot 11-inch waiver. Building 1 does not bother me as much. It's back on the bike trail. We even heard a comment tonight that she lives across the bike trail, and she's going to be welcome looking at what is even a more significant height waiver request. But topographically and located in the center of town, asking for a 6-foot 11-inch waiver for this spot, I have a very difficult time with.
Mr. Chairman, point of order, Andrew Miao. As you pointed out, Mr. Chairman, the hour is late, and we're going through the waivers now. Most of the audience has left, if you've noticed. I wondered whether it is the board's wisdom to continue in this manner to go through these waivers. Thank you.
Mr. Nero, yeah, the problem is, this is our fourth meeting, and we're just starting to get substantive. We've been at this now for over 2 hours tonight, added to the previous, ninth hour.
The other lots 1, Building 1, Lot 2, Building 3, Lot 2, Building 4, I don't have a problem with those, but aesthetically, and one of the things that the Zoning Board of Appeals does in our regular meetings is look out for the town of Orleans and how projects impact the neighborhood and the quality of the town. And I have a real problem with the fact that this building, as tall as it is going on the highest point in the center of our town. And I don't know how to resolve that. But that's, I'm going on the record saying I do have a problem with that waiver request.
Mr. Chair, could I make a
Please
suggestion?
continue.
I mean, that's helpful to hear it now. I don't think we're prepared to, address specifics right now because we don't want to do things, on the fly, especially since there's going to be a committee of some
Maybe
kind.
we shouldn't be
It may be
dealing with.
worthwhile.
Well, I mean,
It may be worthwhile to just go through these quickly. and-
yeah, I don't have any objection to that, but the point is, you're talking about what it's looked like. We can deal with that and perhaps provide something else illustrative. But also, my main point is, to be redundant, that, you're going to have some type of architectural committee, a workshop, whatever, and that's fine. And so those are the things that we would note and talk about at such a committee. It's not the final word tonight.
Well,
trying-
we'll just let you make you just want to discuss them and we won't make any comments? Is that?
No,
what-
that's not what I said at all. I
David.
said the
think
opposite.
that's exactly the type of constructive feedback that is helpful to this conversation so that we know exactly what
They would like to know what's concerning them.
specific issues that
They don't want to respond to it tonight, but they'd like to know what issues they should
I
focus
just,
on.
I felt like I shouldn't be saying anything.
No, I didn't mean that at all. No, of course you should.
Jerry,
The opposite.
Jerry,
Yes.
I'm not just going to sit here, even though I'm not voting on it, because I think I agree with David, except that I also would imply that to both building 1 and 2. This lot goes back from the road, so it's going to overwhelm the whole neighborhood, and people driving up and down 6A are going to have to look at this. The state requires, with the exception of Boston, that every city and town has a zoning board of appeals, as we know. And the selectmen's role, their only role, is under state law, they have to appoint a zoning board of appeals. And then my understanding is that we have to decide if any request is substantially detrimental to the intent of the voters. The voters have stated that this is what they feel the maximum height should be. And I really think we honor that. And before we go on, just going back over to the setback for Lot 2 is only 11 feet from the property line. A 2-story building, only 11 feet. The measly requirement is 15 feet. I don't see why we have to give up 4 feet. These buildings are going to, once again, be right there, 2-story building, right at the edge of the property. Just my thoughts on those two.
One thing that may be helpful to help quell some of these concerns is the team had provided views with renderings of the building from the bike path, the original building 1 concern, additional views from the right of way from a driver, view from someone driving past, view from someone across the street down the area, just to help quell. Some of these buildings are fairly set back, and I'm not confident you'd be able to see some of them on a pass by without intentionally looking. But I think having those views would help members of the board appreciate just how visible they may or may not be. The other thing is, building 2 does, with the new zoning, does conform to the commercial center subdistrict. It is overlaid onto, or is kind of partially in the village scale corridor subdistrict. I believe, and I don't remember if the new zoning currently or still has it, I think it does, that we as a board, for normal cases, the intent of the voters, we have the ability to choose which, if there are multiple zones or multiple districts on a piece of property, we have the ability to select the one that we want to apply the requirements for. I believe it's 164-10. I'd have to refresh myself on the number. So, as it relates to, does it conform to what was recently voted in? I would purport that yes, it does conform to that.
I'm well aware of that.
So I just wanted to clarify that I think it is conforming to what was voted in, if that was a concern.
I'm well aware of that, and perhaps a rendering from someone walking along the sidewalk.
Yeah, we can provide that.
Someone driving down the road, looking up the hill
Absolutely.
to that.
Yeah, we have those renderings. We can.
No, I've seen the renderings you've
Yeah,
provided.
we can
but
provide additional ones, like I meant to say. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yep.
Liz, is the overlay 39 feet? Is that what the zoning requirement is?
I believe it's in excess of that, I think, and
So if
base
you-
is 40.
44?
44, I apologize.
We have pitched roof.
It's in excess of
downtown,
40 feet.
and I know
But
it's
again,
supposed to,
I don't want to, I think it's fair, we're sort of evaluating this, again, based on the village center zoning, which is the base zoning, what the property is zoned. That overlay wasn't in existence when this project came forward. I do think it's very fair to think about it in terms of consistency and of, I think what would be acceptable to the town, that overlay, again, passed. And again, the degree of the waivers that we're looking at here. So again, even in the base zoning, with a special permit, a building can be up to 42 feet.
Thank you.
And again, they're asking for 36 feet here. I don't think that necessarily mitigates Mr. Little's concern, which is, again, I think view from looking up at the building. Again, I think we're gonna have a more detailed conversation about mitigating some of these concerns.
is there any way to?
Well, and I specifically remember when this was brought before the town, at town meeting, when they approved it, all the renderings and pictures that were shown were looking down or looking directly at the size of the buildings that the town was adopting for the new zoning. And this is a perspective that wasn't taken into account when that was done.
Yes, but again, I don't think we're adjudicating the new zoning. I think the applicant's already committed to providing additional renderings on this project, and we can talk about if there are, again, other ways to sort of mitigate the appearance of that building from the street.
Thank you. Jerry?
Yep. You got any other?
No.
I have nothing on height.
Are there maybe any other waivers the board wants to talk about or key
Sorry,
on?
I don't understand.
Discussion.
That's you.
Siri.
Phone has decided that it wants to be part of the conversation.
My phone is,
I mean, the remaining zoning waivers are actually not that many. It's I think I mentioned, the minimum lot size, some of the apartment development, number of units per building, an acre, and things like that. The next one is site plan review, which, in fact, we already voluntarily went through it, but still, in a 40B, you stand in the shoes.
Can I just make one comment on the record regarding minimum lot size? I think in practice, we do not apply that 40,000 square feet in the village center district. We get a lot of questions on it. It is the letter of the zoning, so I think wise to apply for a waiver. But there is no minimum lot size in the village center district.
So the driveways on the HUD housings, they will fit 2 cars?
On the Habitat house.
The Habitat.
Sorry, the Habitat houses. Okay, good, thank you.
Mr. Freeman, could you explain how a study group or a subgroup would work?
Can we, I have one additional waiver. I have an issue
I thought
waiver.
everybody was through, yeah.
No,
please.
not at all.
I thought we're done with that one.
So, Chapter 196, Water Department Rules and Regulations, and Board of Water and Sewer Commissioners. I am not in favor of granting waivers of,
We can make it easy for
and
you.
I feel bad. The chair of the Water and Sewer Commissioner was here. She has left the meeting, but I am not in favor of this is all state money, and this is impacting our town, and
I can make you.
the monies that these generates are important to the town.
I can make you happy on at least that point, because we withdraw the request from you folks on the fee waivers. we do agree, we'll go to the particular boards and commissions and make a pitch, and we'll do what they, what they want. We reserve our right.
I would appreciate that.
No, we're going to do that. A couple of these sections relate to, again, it's technical, but it's important since you stand in the shoes of all of the other town boards, seeking the connection, the right to connect to water and sewer. But we agree
That would take it
wholeheartedly.
out of our wheelhouse. That would be
Yeah,
great.
we'll withdraw the request for those few waivers.
Similar, or maybe similar in nature. It was talked, 192-10 discusses right-of-way width, radius curve, grading. Some of that may be related to, safety. I think that the site plan review did discuss some of the, turning radius of the fire engines. I think having, making reference to some of those discussions is that, the fire chief is aligned with these deviations from the requirement, I think would just be helpful to remind us that, these are somewhat safety related, and the folks responsible for that have bought off on it.
So Taria, you did submit a swept path analysis?
Right. Yeah, I was just going to comment on that. We submitted to the fire department a swept path analysis, and it was based on this design and layout. And we had collaboration with the fire department, really with access to all the buildings, the swept path. We even had discussion about hydrant locations. So he was satisfied at this time.
Great, thank you.
All you have, Jerry.
How about the demolition of historic structures? Which one is the historic structure?
Well, none of them are actually historic, as in the draft decision that Elizabeth prepared and I sent some revisions. It's not I forget the date, was it 38 that one of the buildings was built? But what your demolition delay ordinance, which is simply a delay, it wouldn't stop it from going forward, the demolition anyway, but it says the process applies if a building is before X year, I forget exactly which year, and if it's on your local town survey of historical structures, and it's not. So it's really out of an abundance of caution, just to show that, we raised it, that it wouldn't be required anyway, but again, because you stand in the shoes of all of the boards, that's why I put it in.
I've ridden my bike out there around all these buildings, and there's not one on that site that's worth keeping. Believe you me, they're scary.
See, another thing we agree on. Thank you.
How about if I made the question that came up several times about archaeological?
Yeah, but this is just buildings, your bylaw is just.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, how do we also address that?
Well, again, it's
there a
not,
path?
that wouldn't be a local, and one thing that,
That's a
takes the,
state.
and we did send in the notice that's required, the so-called PNF project notification form to Mass Historical Commission.
I have one last question.
Go ahead.
There's a lot of things in here about off-street parking inside lots. Obviously, with the the nature of this type of project, that you're forced into doing these things, I think they're reasonable. I just wanted to verify that the types of parking, the tandem style parking next to the building, these like parallel parking style spots, and the rest of the parking are in line with what this type of apartment development would normally have. And if just to ask the question, was anything else considered to make it more in line with the requirements?
Well, so I believe, just looking at the parking waivers that are requested, one of them's for putting a parking space within the 10-foot side yard, right? Yeah, you're pointing it out right there. So that's on lot 2.
Considered side as well.
So that's the request there for the waiver for those spaces there. What we're trying to do there on lot 2 is provide spaces for buildings 3 and 4, the 2 spaces that were discussed previously. And then the other parking waiver request is to allow for one of the spaces for lot 2 to be on lot 1, so that we can provide adequate parking for those 2 buildings.
Okay.
We did look at, part of using the parallel parking spaces was to try to allow more green space in the other areas that we've been trying to set aside.
Great, thank you. I'm good.
Any others on the waivers? I think the elephant in the room is the size of Building 1. and that's going to, it hasn't been addressed by the waivers, but specifically. Mr. Freeman, it'd be helpful to us if you could sort of explain how these subgroup would work and how it would help us in this process.
Sure. Typically what happens is, again, it's not a legal term per se, but generally referred to as workshops. And one or two members of the zoning board can participate. It can't be a quorum. It has to be, in this case, less than 3. And town department officials, which I would certainly, welcome input from Elizabeth. In terms of the public, it's a little bit unusual, but I don't think there's anything that would forbid it. To that point, if there are, and there's a couple have already spoken, if there are architects, I don't think it has to go through a screening process, just that everybody recognizes that they're in a volunteer capacity and they're not providing official testimony, so to speak, to the board, because, it's a back and forth process. It's not a mediation that's confidential. But it's also intended just to, everybody let their hair down and express freely the ideas and exchange of ideas, and I'm all for that. The other thing that I was going to say is just, unwieldiness. We don't want to have so many people, that it's like you just can't really get anything done. If you have, usually I would say even more than 5 or 6 people, it just really becomes unwieldy. So those would be my suggestions.
And they would meet and come up with some proposals and come back as a whole and.
Well, again, we ultimately, we would listen and we would perhaps and hopefully come up with things that both this workshop committee would like and that you would like. Naturally, as you know, we're not duty-bound to do that, but we're entering into it in good faith, as you folks are.
Is your architect online listening?
I think Paul was there. I don't know if he's still there. Paul, are you there online?
I don't believe so.
No.
I don't see a Paul.
I mean, he would obviously be someone we want to participate for sure, so.
Yeah, I mean, if I can suggest, it would be a non-quorum participation from the Zoning Board of Appeals, so no more than 2 of you, which you could appoint to sit. Certainly, Architectural Review Committee, you might want to invite those members on. And then, you could potentially put an at-large or a couple of at-large seats on there to accommodate other folks who we've heard testimony on. And again, could meet and dialogue, and if there are potential ways to mitigate the concerns we've heard. And again, I think it's good to be specific about those concerns. I have 3 that I pulled primarily out of this conversation, which was the massing, again, the overall massing of Building 1, the appearance, especially as it related to height of Building 2 from the street, and the number of parking spaces, especially in relationship to the common green space. So to give them sort of a targeted charge, and please feel free to add to that if there are, I think, other pressing issues, but that's what I heard in summary. So again, not sort of a carte blanche, but relating to the issues that I heard from you all tonight, to bring back comments and feedback to the board. I think we have been most productive in these hearings, again, when we are responding to a specific concern and the applicant has the ability to respond to that. So that would be my suggestion.
Who would be there from the applicant side, other than the architect, hopefully?
Well, I'm assuming the entirety of the applicant team as they saw fit. Does that sound right? Yeah. Attorney Connolly?
Yeah, you explained it right. You can't have more than a quorum of any board, so 2 members of this board, and if you're going to have people from the Architectural Access Board or any other board, just make sure it's not more than a quorum based on whatever number is on that board. And then
we have
that's
sort of an at-large seat if we wanted to have a member of the public, and maybe whoever the participating members of the zoning board could invite those folks on.
exactly.
And just to state the obvious, it's not a hearing, so obviously there's free exchange between the people on the committee, but it's not, it's not a place where testimony would be taken like obviously this hearing process.
Jerry, going back to Building 1, if I'm reading this correctly, what the town would have allowed is 20 units, and what the applicant is asking for is 40 units. I really don't think that the voters ever wanted that.
I think the biggest issue on this application is that building and the size and the massing of it.
Thank you.
It doesn't come out here in the waivers, except,
Well,
it comes out all over the waivers, actually.
No, they are.
But to Bob's point, it comes out under apartment development.
So it's the number of units in a building. Again, it is not the overall number of units on the 5.5 acre site. That is consistent. It is the number of units in the building. And certainly there might be design approaches to, again, help mitigate the appearance of mass of that building that I think
But
folks who are architecturally inclined might be able to weigh in on.
And I think we've already heard that separating it into two buildings is not feasible.
Well, we're not going to get into.
I would suggest that there are, again, probably architectural approaches, and I think we heard a number of them at our first couple of hearings relative to creating transparency in the connectors between those two buildings, the offset and the increase, changes in materials. Again, I am not an architect, and thus the I think compelling need for the subcommittee to help better articulate, again, ways we can mitigate and condition the design of the building to address the concern of the public and the board.
I think what we've
Jerry?
just done, I think we've just done is identify issues we want a subgroup to consider. I don't think, go back and say they said we couldn't have two buildings. I think what we want to do is bring our concerns to the subgroup and see if we can arrive at a place where we all can agree.
Well, I move that we select two people from our zoning board to be part of that.
Well, yeah, well, absolutely, but do we want to sit here and describe who else should be on that committee? Do we want to create the committee now?
I think it would be good to have some guidance. I would appoint 2 members of your board. I would strongly suggest having somebody from Architectural Review. They are the body in town that, again, I think seeks to guide the design, and we certainly have some expertise there. And then I would suggest, again, deference to whoever the 2 appointees are to include either another board or an at-large member of the public or 2, with the idea five or 6, that we try to keep the
At-large architects, perhaps?
at-large, those with, yes, experience in design and architecture.
Do you want to have a number in mind and then fill it in, or do we want to? Peter's point is absolutely right. No, not from the board, from the whole committee. Peter's point is you get too big and nothing happens.
An uneven number is always nice in case of dispute. Like I like 5, but
You got 2 from the board.
I mean,
You have the ARC. Yeah, Peter. Mr. Freeman, yeah.
Yeah, just a question, not making it a lengthy process at all, but if Elizabeth is charged with choosing those at-large members, I think she should take a look at the, experience and qualifications of whatever architects are possibly on the committee.
so I don't think I would choose the at-large members, but I would certainly defer to whoever the board members are and come up with potential recommendations. Again, I think we've heard from a lot of folks tonight who are interested in
All
qualifying.
right, so let's go through. So the 2 from the board, 1 from the ARC.
2 from the ARC.
Debbie, Jerry, I think it would be good to have one from the planning board, and if she would be willing to serve. Debbie Oakes seemed to have a real breadth of understanding of the history, and she was on the original design committee.
I thought she made a great presentation.
Well, perhaps 1 from Architectural Review, 1 from Planning Board.
Yeah.
No? Yes. Okay.
2 from Architectural
Back of the
Review.
room.
So maybe we defer and maybe we say at least 2 qualified architects on the board. And should the planning board member choose to defer her seat to another, then we can negotiate that.
There is one architect at the Architectural Review Board.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has his hand raised. He's in
Or
the back row.
2, actually, and they are both in the room.
Peter spoke, another, not on the board, he's another architect. We actually showed up, so there's some weight there.
Would you 2 like to volunteer to be on the committee? Andrew?
I guess, do we need to make a determination of people now, or just the?
I would say the seats, and good to know we have some willingness, but yes.
They can have a knife fight of the IR.
Yeah. I do think you should designate the members of the zoning board.
And Peter Haig has come to every hearing. I know you've spent a lot of time in your office with him.
Yep.
It's another name I'm suggesting.
I would
Well, he
just
would be in
ask Kate, he is in a butter. I don't know if that gives him, if there's any issues with him. That might be a good thing. I just want to clear it with legal, that he is a direct abutter to the project.
He has a proprietary interest if he's a direct abutter. I don't think you should have anybody that has a conflict of interest of that level, even if it might be helpful. I can check with the State Ethics Commission, because they look at these things and they have guidance.
Okay. I just don't want to assign Peter without having that question.
Yeah, I mean,
I
I
think his
agree with you.
input
It
would
could
be
be helpful,
incredibly
but it could
valuable,
also be perceived as a conflict, so.
Maybe we should focus on the zoning board members and leave the rest open, especially to ask their.
Well, yes, we should decide no, I think we need to decide the number, the total number. I think we should throw it to the ARC to see who represents them.
Yeah, I agree, yes.
If I could suggest to Joy Cumming, she's very well familiar with
I
this.
think we could, yeah, we're gonna let ARC establish who it is. They're the town board in charge of that. They can establish who their two representatives are.
So maybe we have two at-large members, we say,
At-large, she would be an at-large.
yeah, so we have two,
You're
two.
gonna get a room full of architects, you're not gonna get anything done.
I hear that's certainly a concern. But again, it's to make recommendations to the board. You guys are in charge. I think, again, bringing in some expertise is,
Yeah, I would just
It's
suggest
not
if we
a
could maybe set a maximum number.
Yeah.
People,
I'd
you know,
say
as
no
Peter
more than-
mentioned, just the concern would be, you know, getting unwieldy.
It looks like
Yeah.
it's gonna be 7 as a maximum number if we look.
7
at
arcoptex?
numbers.
can we do a 6? I think.
7 people.
I just, my concern is that
All architects.
everyone could come with very good, completely differing opinions and
Given the
stuff.
list you just went through, 7 seems like what it is. I mean, that's
Yeah.
fine with me.
Yeah, I think that's right. Thank you, Mr. Fields.
Got that, Elizabeth?
7.
7.
Do we need to make a motion and approve this formally, or is this something that can happen informally?
I would make a motion. Again, I defer to Kate, but I would strongly make a motion, and I would appoint members of this group to oversee that process.
I'd like to have a time frame on this motion. This can't take forever. We've
No,
got
I agree.
to get all this done. Yeah, so no more than 2 months, 6 weeks, I don't know what's realistic.
Yeah.
We can't take till.
Agreed. Thank you. I was going to ask about that, too. I think that's also probably deciding that answer relates also to when the next hearing will be, because it'd be good if there can be at least 1, maybe 2 meetings of this committee, so. And you're going to have to do the traffic peer review consultant, and that's going to take a little time for them to review, so, I mean, I don't know what you guys are thinking
Let's
about a
work on-
hearing,
let's
but.
work on this. Let's get the 7 people, the 7 types. We have 2 from our board, 2 from ARC. That's 4. 1 from planning. 5.
2 at large.
2 at large. You want to say what qualifications we're looking for? I don't think we just want somebody walking off the street. Someone who can bring substance to it. Do we want to define the 2 at large?
Well, yeah.
Emma, do you have wisdom to provide us, please?
Architects.
You already have 2 at-large architects.
Could there be some language put into the request that people who are sitting on that committee or that board will make a good faith effort, or that they want to see this project move through?
No, I think, I don't.
I mean, yes, so I do think that's the intent of this. Again,
I
I
think
think the creating a constructive dialogue around some of these design issues in this forum has not necessarily been productive. So again, focusing on the sort of issues at hand, the scope that we just specifically talked about. And again, to the best of the applicant's ability, to be able to accommodate some of those concerns. So yes, I do think that's inherent in.
I think it would be logical to have perhaps an engineer if there's someone who could be
Well,
at large.
we have 2 engineers on this board, and I think that we ought to have
know, but-
Sibel be one of our representatives and one of the 2 engineers, or to be one of our, the second.
I'm the wrong kind of engineer.
I mean,
I'm the wrong kind of engineer.
I'm the right kind of engineer.
David has been in this business for a long time, so I would suggest that our
And
motion.
and Mr. Freeman and I get along so well, so.
You get
We
along
will.
better than Bob does.
And, sorry, just quickly on the point of qualifications, from my perspective, I think it would be helpful if our project architect wasn't the only person in the discussion who had multifamily housing development experience, so just something to consider.
I'm sorry, I don't know if we're going to find anybody with multifamily housing experience.
Well, that's up to Elizabeth.
Again, I think, you know, if we put 2 at large, and we certainly seek out folks who have experience in designing similar projects, and then again, folks again with, I think, design or community building experience is really
right,
one of the other issues we're looking.
We got 5 definite assignments, and we get 2 at large. I don't know, how do we want to determine the 2 at large? Throw it to Elizabeth?
I think Elizabeth and
Can I make one
in
suggestion?
contact with the committee, right?
One suggestion, Jerry?
Yeah.
Consider putting 2 from the planning board. They're the pros, planners. I have a
Well, the
2
planning board has already had a lot of input into this, right?
I mean, the planning board issued a letter of support for this project, so I feel like they're generally at a pretty good.
The planning board, the
Place
staff
on
of the
this.
planning board, the staff of the planning department has brought this thing forward.
Debbie Oaks would like
Well-
to speak.
Debbie Oaks, please.
I think at least my understanding.
Debbie, please come to the mic.
Debbie.
I think it's been, as has been described, I think my intention anyway was to get professional architects, urban planners, or not planners, designers, different thing. Potentially a landscape architect if there were such a person, specifically to discuss design. You don't need, planning board members, we're past that. This is, workshop, I think, is a great descriptor of what was in my head, which is a bunch of professionals sitting around a table, throwing the ideas around, and they will hash out something that everybody can agree to that will improve the project. I have 100% faith in that. And I think we're going far afield if we start naming planning board members. And I do want to say one other thing, which is that we should specify architects. For example, on ARC, we have the 2 ARC architects are present. The other members of ARC are not architects. And I think when you went to the ARC, I believe it was when there were no architects there to talk to you. So that was our fault. That was our problem, our being the town. But that, just wanted to, we're starting to brainstorm a little bit around who could be on this committee. And I think you had a really good focus with the 2, and then 2 at large that you could ask who's available, get some names maybe, ask who's available, and then let Jerry.
I think that's great. I was on the same page, 2 at
You want
large.
to take on the assignment of trying to find us 2 at large?
And then whoever those
I
I would say whoever those at-large members are would be sort of, would David and Sabel, who are going to be your sitting members, would have the sort of blessing of whoever those 2 at-large members are.
Well, she's the chairman of the planning board, so she's got in a good position to find.
They're not letting you off the hook, Debbie.
Sure, in the back. Mr. Wyman.
I would be happy to do anything I can to help.
All right, all right. Mr. Wyman.
I'm good.
Thank you all for your help in securing the future look of our town. Because 50 years, 75 years from now, somebody sitting on the historic commission where I do may come and say, is this building preferably preserved? Is this project preferably preserved? And I want it to be a yes. We never want to tear this down. We want this to be an iconic building project for this community. And your work will get us there. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Freeman.
I think the composition is well done. I agree with what your planning board member said. I think 1 member is fine, because I think 2 at-large people make sense, so that would be 7. I'm perfectly, comfortable with Elizabeth and anyone she speaks to, including the 2 board members designated, to pick the at-large members. That's all.
Can we bring it to a vote, Jerry?
No, there's a comment. So I should know who you are, but I don't. I'm sorry.
Rich Morangello.
Oh, hey, Mr. Morangello, please.
I think the two at-large people obviously are Peter Haig and Joy Cumming. They've been involved in this project much longer than Andrew and I.
I would agree, but we're not sure Peter can take part
Yeah.
because he's in a butter. I would agree that Joy Cumming would be a very good choice.
Personally speaking, Peter's come to our hearings. He's presented drawings and ideas, and despite him being in a butter, he would drastically be
agree. We just don't know
a
if he's-
great person to have, if he's even willing
It's
to.
almost protecting him, not putting him on it, because.
I understand.
if push comes to shove and they say, well, he had a vested interest. If we don't get to an agreement, you know.
Who better to be on the committee who has
I
a,
agree, there's a pro and a con there, right?
Yeah.
But we'll let, again, I think Peter would be great. I know he would be willing to participate. I asked him, but I do think we should just vet to make sure that we're not creating a misstep.
All right,
So we would need a vote, 2 zoning board members, David and Sabel, 2 architectural review committee members, 1 planning board member, and 2 at-large.
one planning board designee. Could be a member or someone else, right? Is that what your point was, Ms. Oaks?
No, just one, she said.
No, just Debbie.
It was, I thought you, oh, okay.
Nope.
I thought she was saying that no. And the 2 at-large, and we're gonna have a preference for people who have planning experience.
Planning, design, architecture, landscape architecture, urban design, engineering, housing, especially with experience in doing larger scale
We're gonna let-
multifamily
We're
development.
gonna let David and Sabel choose.
We will let David and Sabel have the ultimate choice.
All right. I think we have a motion to create a 7-member group, with 2 members being Sabel and David, representatives from the ARC, 1 from the planning board, and 2 at-large members to be selected by David and Sabel.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
I guess we can let you vote, even though you're
Okay,
of
yes,
interest. Sabel?
yes.
Austin?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, okay.
All right, and I think we will work out time frame, but again, with the applicant,
let's
that
put a timeframe
we
on it.
hope to have this
Let's
done
put
in
a
a,
report back by,
right,
we have a November deadline, right?
We sure
absolutely.
do.
And we got 2 weeks, so nothing's gonna happen before Labor Day. We talking about some September 20th, have a report, or have a,
We'll work offline and report back.
all right.
Maybe we talk about a next hearing date.
Yeah,
Is there?
Next
Mr.
hearing
Freeman?
date.
yeah,
Next meeting day. Well, we wanna hear from them before we have another meeting.
Well, you'd have to hear from them at a meeting.
Okay,
with that date, I think September 20th, or perhaps a little earlier, for the committee to have met and, a report or come to the hearing and report makes sense. So I was going to suggest that a date that's either the second to last week or the last, well, not the last short week, but the week of the 14th or the 21st for the next ZBA hearing.
of September.
Yes, September.
Where is that?
So can I ask, your regularly scheduled meetings are the 2nd and 16th, or the 9th and 23rd?
16th is the 2nd and 16th.
Second and
are regular
16th.
members. You want to do the 23rd? How's your calendar, Mr. Freeman, the 23rd?
Yeah, that would be fine.
Everybody else good for the 23rd of September?
Isn't that too far off?
Well, the group has to be formed and meet at least once. I don't
What
think
if we
much is
did
going to
the-
get done before the end of September.
What if we did the Tuesday
August.
the 15th?
My preference to keep it on Wednesdays if we can for my schedule.
I think.
I think a month would be a sufficient.
Yeah, as much as, yeah, I think the 23rd is more realistic, as much as I'd like,
Okay.
alacrity, but, 23rd is realistic.
All right, our next meeting then will be Wednesday, September 23rd at 7 o'clock back here.
Can I make one comment before we adjourn? Because I know I'm going to tie myself up in knots on this. The selection of the firm who does the peer review. would the board be willing to defer that decision to the chair? So we don't have to wait another meeting before
I would rather
to
defer-
vote on that selection and then to vote to have them do the work?
I'd rather defer to David. Because he's an engineer, he understands these things, he can pull the wool over my eyes pretty easily on those issues. If David would be amenable.
I don't know, I've been seeing too much of Elizabeth lately, I think. Yes, that's fine.
I just wanted to be clear. Again, I know there was a question asked about is the board able to select them? So I just want to be clear on how we're going to proceed on that going forward.
How fast can the DPW get an RFP out or whatever paperwork they
Fast.
need to do to get a?
We're good at doing things fast when we need to. I'll work with, but yes, I will absolutely consult with them on scope and qualifications, et cetera.
Is there anyone else any other issues to come before us?
No, I did want to note for the record, we did not talk about the Cape Cod Commission comments at the hearing, but I do think there were some suggestions in there in terms of things that, again, I think were very acceptable, and then there were some suggestions in there about things that we might want to have another conversation about. I just want to note that those comments are on the record, and that we can look through those as we get to looking at potential permit conditions.
Let me ask you a question. Has the Cape Cod Commission done anything about water on Cape Cod? I mean, everyone who's raised any concerns has raised the issue of, it's in everybody's mind because of the drought now. And it seems to me that a town approach it has to be a Cape-wide approach.
Well, in terms of our purview on this permit, we did make sure that we had a dialogue with our Department of Public Works and our water department around adequacy of public facilities. We are in a historic drought, so we do have historically low water levels, but our limitations are on non-essential watering. So there is no concern about the amount of water we are pulling up from our wells or the amount of water that we are treating going out. We're still using that, still allowing people to irrigate their lawns using that potable drinking water. So I think it's very clear we are not in a crisis water situation at present, and I do feel confident that we have adequate water and facilities in the area to serve
Can we get a
additional
statement to that
housing.
effect from the water department?
Yes, we can.
Because it would be, we should respond to that because everybody raises it.
Yes, it's a common concern expressed, but I do feel confident here that when we did set a goal for increasing our number of housing units townwide, we did so with a lot of thoughtfulness that we have, again, either adequate public facilities in place or a plan to create adequate public facilities as we grow as a community downtown. And I'm very confident that our town engineers have addressed.
Do you request a statement to that effect from the water department to the board?
Sure. Again, you have site plan approval, but we can ask them to address that specific issue.
Anything else to come before the board? David, you're moving to adjourn?
So moved.
Did you vote on the
Seconding?
27th?
Second.
All in
So
favor?
we are continuing the hearing. Thank you, Peter. So we are continuing the hearing to September
23rd,
23rd at 7 p.m.
7
Hopefully,
p.m.
we'll have two constructive group meetings prior to that, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, we should hold the vote on the continuance.
What's that?
Should hold the vote on the continuance before we adjourn.
Yeah, we're voting to continue. We're voting to continue the meeting, not adjourn it.
Understood.
So that was a vote, we just took a vote to continue the meeting.
Continue the
We'll do it again. I'll vote to, is there a motion to continue the meeting till September 23rd at 7 p.m.?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Good night, everyone.